This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
No, cut that. Keep that. Someday it's going to be worth something.
Russ Wakelin.
You put me in an ATST with frickin' Wookiees attacking me and whatnot?
Now you're talking.
And Stephen Buonocore in the third chair.
I am the Podfather, you know.
With contributions from Total Fangirl
Vampires do not sparkle.
and our loyal listeners.
Crazy? That's like 400 hours of gamer nonsense.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming. Covered at the speed of a spoiler who was spoiler till he spoilered. Who spoiler that spoiler?
What?
Today's edition is brought to you by all of our friends at Patreon who help us keep the lights on. This time around, it's Nuno Castillo, Elindo Castro, Kelly Caudle, Matt Chapman, and Dean Clark. I'm Geekly McNutty, your host today up at LSR, Russ Rickety Wall Wakelin, and the Podfather himself, the Lord of the Stronghold, and a man who's not afraid to put it all out there in bicycle shorts, Stephen Blockhouse Buonocore. Let's begin. Issue number 1. It is no secret that through the years, the English language has been constantly adrift, with words changing their meanings and their intimations in both strong and subtle ways. What might have meant good at one point in history could very well mean bad just a generation later. Question: what single word is missing from the following sentences or phrases? The area is a Republican blank. The rebels retreated to their mountain blank. The last blank of the endangered deer. Rinky-dink Russ.
I know what you're going for here, but I'm not giving him the cheap promotion, so I'm going to say moon.
Stovepipe Steven.
Well, it obviously is Stronghold.
Wrong! It's Pegacorn! All right, moving on. Issue number 2. A Dracolich is a dragon who has voluntarily tied its soul to a phylactery, freeing itself from death. A type of lich, the creature's spirit could possess any dead reptilian body, usually their original form, and retained all the powers and abilities of the former body. Question: who was the first wizard to discover the process of creating Dracoliches in the service of a prophecy that at the end of the world, the ruins would be ruled over by dead dragons? Randall Flagg Russ.
Gary Gygax.
Sylvanus Carolinus Stephen.
Gandalf.
Sam Master the Mad, of course. Those were 2 pathetic guesses, which give you yet another wrong. Who else? To this day, he goes around creating them, paving the way for his self-declared Dragopolypse.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, figure that one out. Issue number 3. Spoilers. Nothing can be more annoying. Having some great twist reveal or even the entire ending of a story ruined by some lackwit blabbing his fool mouth off to some troglodyte friend in line behind you. And yet it's so much fun to talk about amazing twists, reveals, and endings. Wherever is a fanboy to go? Where is the safest place in all the multiverse to discuss spoilers to your heart's content with no fear that you're going to ruin someone else's day? Null Realm Russ.
Alone in the bathroom, ask me how I know.
Cone of Silence Stephen.
On the Lost Chapters.
Wrong! The restaurant at the end of the universe, of course, because everything else has already ended. Of course, if you're in the poor section of the Endless Plains and you can't afford the robot valet parking at the RATEOTU, you can always go to the Dunkin' Donuts at the center of the universe, I guess, but that's so low rent it could hardly count as a right answer for this question. Issue number 4. Role-playing is a near-universal skill nowadays when everyone from HR to the cool kids are using it to amuse, entertain, educate, and elucidate everything from high fantasy, well, we'll leave it at that. How long, on average, does it take to create a fully realized 3-dimensional character for a good RPG, no matter where you are, what system you're playing, and what kind of GM you might be dealing with? Richard Boslowski Russ.
I'm going to go with purple.
Lee Strasberg Stephen.
What? It must be done extemporaneously.
That's an excellent word. 50 cents for that word, Stephen. And unfortunately, 50 cents and a big W for wrong. The answer is no time at all. Literally no time at all. All these characters exist somewhere out there already. They're out there somewhere in the multiverse, just waiting to be discovered. Close your eyes and let them in, or never. You know, an argument can be made for that as well. That's it for now. Thanks for listening and good night.
This episode of the D6 Generation is brought to you by Lone Wolf Development. Take your game to the next level.
And by
Geek Nation Tours. Rise up and join the Geek Nation, touring the world at geeknationtours.com.
And by Audible. Try the service, get a free book, and support the show. All by visiting audibletrial.com/D6G.
Hey, welcome to episode 222, or triple two, three deuces, Craig.
Whoa, the triple two.
Of the D6 generation.
That's confusing.
I'm
That sounds
Russ
like
Wakeland.
three in there. I'm Craig Alon.
And I'm Stephen Buonocore, president of Stronghold Games. Some people call me the Podfather, and the holder of the record of the most non-Wraith third chairs on the D6G, I think. Or is it?
Oh.
Is it Terrace?
I have to
I
look
don't
that
know.
up. I can't.
Yeah,
remember
we'd have
exactly.
to go to the tape on that.
We'd have
one.
to
No
go to
way.
the tape. We'll have to research this. But Stephen, welcome back to the show. It's always a pleasure. A pleasure to have you on here, regardless of how many times it's been. Every time feels like the first time, Stephen.
It feels like,
It's like a journey.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Usually I'm the only one picking up the music cues.
Absolutely,
That's
all the time.
excellent.
It's really great to be back, guys. You were the first podcast I think that I appeared on way
Wow,
back
that is freaky.
from
No.
2010, 11 on from the beginning of Stronghold.
Back when there were only 100 or 200 of them.
Yes, only
Now
then.
there's like 100 or 200,000 of them.
yes.
Oh, podcasts, you mean? Yes,
they're
yes,
like,
yes.
They're like a plague on
You
humanity.
know, 1 or
honestly.
2,000 people.
It's like a plague against humanity, and we're just proud to be part of the pus, really.
Proud to be part.
That's right. So, Stephen, thanks again. We're, of course, excited to have Stephen back on the show. Of course, we're going to talk about with him a little later about Stronghold Games and what they've been up to, all the new hotness. And then a little later, we're going to bring back a segment that we played with once, and it's called Whose Character Is It Anyway? Right? So more about that a little later. No spoilers. You have to come and just wait for that and see if it's worth listening to. Quite frankly, I don't know. It may be terrible. We'll find out later.
It could be awful.
Before we get to all that, though, we do have a little business. First of all, we did, in fact, run into Stephen at the Dunkin' Donuts in the center of the universe here. And, Stephen, do you remember what we spoke about on the Lost Chapters together?
We had a great time talking about the Game of Thrones, the last 3 episodes of the season, the culmination.
Second half. Yeah.
Right? The
Big
second half of the
finale,
season.
as it were.
Steven kept breaking the rules because he wanted to talk about the whole season, and you know,
Yeah, we're like, no, come on, we already
we're like,
did that.
no,
Yeah,
there's so much cool stuff we have to get out now, and yeah.
But we really did have a great time with that.
it was a blast.
I loved the predictions portion, and everybody who
That was fun and extemporaneous.
and extemporaneous.
Yeah,
it really
very
was, because
much.
we
Look at that.
didn't think we were going to do that.
No, that was all Steven.
And it's funny because I really mean this. My favorite episode of the season is not the one that I'm on. The favorite episode of the season is the one you guys do the predictions every year. I love listening to that whole thing and you gamerize the whole thing. It's crazy. So we kind of got together there and kind of added sort of predictions about Game of Thrones ending.
Yes, the big finale. So you have to listen to
the
us.
big finale.
Yeah. So yes, Stephen, and again, a lot of people do comment on the predictions episode, which it's getting closer. But ironically, I find it fascinating. People enjoy that episode so much because Craig and I continually talk about how it's one of the strangest things we ever did, and it's the most requested thing we do, which is
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so thank you again, Stephen, for chatting with us at Dunkin' Donuts. It was always a blast to talk about Game of Thrones, and you are clearly a Game of Thrones expert. But Craig, if our listeners want to listen to Stephen and yourself and myself talk about Game of Thrones, how best?
Wait, if they want to listen to those and get access to those, which I highly recommend because they're so awesome, they should do is listen to you right now.
Well played, sir. What you want to do is go to the d6generation.com, and on the upper right-hand corner of the page, you will literally see a little button that you can click, and it will take you right to Patreon, where you can then subscribe, become a patron subscriber. And if you're a patron of the show, it means you just give us a little money per episode, a little thank you tip, as much as you
in the grand Renaissance tradition.
In the grand tradition of tipping, showing appreciation for something someone else does for you. And so if you do that,
creating art.
Tip, right. If you make that tip
in this
$2
particular
or more
equation
per episode, you will have access to the entire library of the Lost Chapters, including the latest one. from Patreon right there on the D6generation.com. So
there should be a sound effect, an epic sound effect when you do it, like the opening of some massive vault.
There should be, but there isn't. It just starts working.
There isn't. It's just happens.
Now,
More of a
also,
whimper.
Stephen, it may be one of the reasons you may be the most frequent, or one of the most frequent. We still are figuring this part out. Guest on the show.
We have our research department working
is
on
that
that.
you do two things we love. One, you give lots of free stuff away to our listeners.
Oh.
And two, you handle all the shipping for us, which makes it really, really easy.
Makes it easy for us.
It does.
Of course.
So, Stephen, you told us, you said, I want to give something really cool and hot away, which we're like, well, that's great. So that would be great.
Yep.
Our listeners appreciate that. And what is this new game? I know we talk a bit more later, but Space Freaks. Why should people be excited about this new hotness?
Why should you be excited about Space Freaks? It's one of my big box game releases for the fourth quarter, and it is a tactical combat game essentially, which I know a lot of your listeners will be into that style of game, where you get a team of space freaks, and you're going to go out and go into combat against the other players' teams of space freaks. But the coolest portion of the whole thing is that you're going to create that space freak from the ground up. So you're going to create via looking through a bunch of cards, you'll pick a head for him. You'll pick his right arm, his left arm, his legs. And each one of those things will give you powers, range, different defenses, and things like that. So the game is going to have infinite replayability, because every time you go out, you're going to be equipped with a completely different set of space freaks. And then there's going to be this crazy guy called the Arena Master, because you are battling in the arena of annihilation on some distant, crazy, weird world. So the Arena Master will give you like missions to go on and things to do, like land on the other player's base or capture the center of the board or things like that, which are unknown. And you're going to have to go do that, and you get extra victory points by doing that. So very, very, very replayable. Lots of fighting and craziness on the board. Some miniatures in the game. It's got something for everybody, essentially, who likes that kind of heavily interactive American-style game, but with really cool streamlined mechanics. So we're really excited about this, and it's a game that I think that really needs to get a lot of love as we're moving up to its release, which is on November 15th. That's the official street date. And based on when I think the contest is going to end and everything, we're going to have it in your hands at or before that date.
That's awesome, Stephen. So, Stephen sent us some information about this game. It looks fantastic. I can't wait to get my hands on this thing.
And you're getting a copy very soon.
We're really excited to talk about it. And what's really cool about this is, again, Stephen, I think you're exactly right. It's the kind of game our listeners really get into. Little plastic bits, fighting robots. I mean, how can you go wrong? So, So what we're thinking, Stephen, and this is, you correct me if I'm wrong on this contest, but I think the plan is, we haven't done a little audio participation contest in a bit. So if you guys out there, our listeners, would record a short blurb, you can either, record it yourself and email it to us at info@the-d6generation.com. That's info@the-d6generation.com.
What is it?
Info@the-d6generation.com. Send us that email with your contest entry. And what we will do is we will listen to all those. And we want it to be a short blurb about Space Freaks.
30 seconds?
Yes, 30 seconds. If you need to go to
or a song.
Or a song, whatever. But it's got to be sort of in the style or the voice of the Arena Master. So this is sort of like 2 bots enter, 1 bot leaves, right, Steven? Situation.
Yeah, you can kind of think of it like that, sure. And, of course, they can go look up the game on and all of its, description and thematic context on Board Game Geek. Just search for Space Freaks, and you'll see a little bit more information and the artwork and all that kind of stuff.
Because Steven is the judge, so we're gonna get these entries. We're gonna give them to Steven as well. He's gonna vote. Craig and I'll give some input, and then that's gonna be the winner. And the winner's gonna get a copy of Space Freaks pretty much at the moment it comes out, right, Steven?
We can't give away 1 copy. That's nonsense.
What?
What?
Really? How many?
Got to give away 2 copies.
What?
Look at that.
So 2 winners.
It's like crazy sale on Sunday.
2 is too lonely still. I don't like that.
What?
3.
Uh-oh.
3 copies of Space Freaks.
All right, so 3 winners.
The top three people
winners.
must get one.
And again, these contests, recording audio sounds easy, but people, they put it off and they don't do it. So if Steven's giving away 3 copies,
your ratio of winning is very high.
You've got a good chance. This is a high bar contest entry, right?
$70 a game too. Just so people know,
wow. And this one,
$69.95.
I'm super excited about this. I think you should all enter. And here's the thing. So you enter the contest. We'll listen to these things. It'll be fantastic. And we will send those games out. Now, here's the deal. The contest is going to end on Halloween. Super easy to remember.
Yeah.
So get all your entries in by Halloween. When the real freaks come out, get your space freaks.
Oh, yeah.
Freaks, right?
Get your space freaks on.
I see what he did there.
So we're really excited. So Stephen, thank you so much. That's super cool. So we'll.
I'm really excited about this. This is the only podcast where I'm running a contest, on this game. So I think it's a really cool thing to do for it. I'm really happy to be here doing this.
So that's all now behind us, which I can't wait. Stephen, I can't wait to get the space freak and check this thing out. It's the kind of game my girls really
awesome.
But Craig, what's the time now for?
More space. No.
Achievements in gaming
is part of the show where we talk about what we've been playing lately. Stephen, what have you been playing lately?
It's a slight bit self-serving. Most of the things I've been doing. Sure. A lot of stuff that
okay. We're used to it.
You're used to it. Thank you, Craig. I appreciate it.
No problem.
But a lot of stuff that I do play is like prototypes and stuff like that. And so which I really basically can't talk about. And starting at this time of year and running through the end of the year, we're in like prototype and bringing stuff back from Essen hell, so to speak. We haven't got to Essen yet, but as soon as that happens, we go into that mode. So we're into looking at all the games that are going to be brought out for 2018 and beyond. So that's sort of one of the big pushes I'm doing right now. But I'm also playing a few other games that I can't stop playing. My friends will refuse to stop playing Terraforming Mars. And since we basically just released on about a month ago, it street dated the first expansion, Hellas and Elysium. Now they're all re-energized, and we're now playing on the Hellas board. Then we played on the Elysium board. So I want to try to get them to play some other stuff, my prototypes for one, and just other games in general. No, they keep reverting themselves back to Terraforming Mars. I had a buddy of mine who went on vacation with another friend, and they went down to the Outer Banks with their wives and their kids, and they played, and they were there for 8 days. They played every day. They played Terraforming Mars at least once. Their wives must have been very, very, very excited about this. Neither of which are gamers.
Yes, right.
It must have been a very interesting vacation. But
that's awesome, though. I'm so glad the game. Everyone's talking about this game, Steven. It's huge and it's fantastic, and I'm so glad it's doing well for you guys.
Yeah, no, it's just really knocking it off. And of course, we have the second expansion coming out, which is Venus Next, and that'll be out just around the end of the year. It's cutting it close for at this point for December 27th, but it should make it. Cool. The other couple of things I've been doing, again, they're mine. I just got in the expansion to Dark Moon, which is was originally published as BSG Express. I don't know if you remember that, right? Yeah. And it was this dice-based version of Battlestar Galactica. But, of course, we couldn't use that IP, so we stripped that out. We created our own. And Dark Moon, which is a game of betrayal on the cold edge of space, now has even more betrayal as there's new roles, the company man. So it's like the Paul Reiser role and things like that, from Aliens. So we've been playing that with the expansion. And Not Alone, which just came out in June. This is a game, a one versus many game, and I've been playing it a lot only because it's a fast game and it plays with up to 7 players. And I've not been playing with the darn expansion because I don't have it in my possession yet. It's literally being printed right now in Germany. I should have it in a couple of weeks. But that's the extent of my gaming. It's sadly mostly Stronghold. I'm sorry for that.
Right. No, my kids are huge fans of Dark Moon, as a matter of fact.
Oh, that's excellent.
My daughters love the.
They like Line Trail.
They loved it at that Granite State thing, right?
Yeah, we played it there. I played it, and whenever our friend Christian has his game day thing, Dark Moon always pops out, and the kids play that too. So it's one of those games where they love to. They just love the deception. Kids.
I'll get you the expansion too, so you can play with the kids again. That'd be great.
Mm-hmm. Kids like to legally lie. So anytime you're
that is true.
To lie,
this is true.
That's awesome. Right?
I love it.
They love that. So that's fantastic.
Permissible lying.
Exactly right. Anytime you can beat up your dad, that's why whenever I play these games like Risk Legacy, I always lose because the kids are like, let's just take out dad. Let's just do it. So they do. And there you have it. Craig, what have you been playing?
Let's see. Well, it's very hard for me to get to the game store during play practice, of course, season. And so I need to make the most of each night. And so when they don't come together, they get very frustrating. So a couple weeks ago, it didn't. Game with Russ fell apart because of time constraints. And then everybody else was gone. And the only person who would give me a game, Russ, was Dave, who is, of course, our friend Dave is a pundit for Steamforged. And he is running a local escalation league of Guild Ball, so he used me as a guinea pig to run a demo of the of the beginner scale of Guild Ball, and it was amazing how much I had forgotten and needed a demo.
Really?
So, you should have seen it. In the end, it took Dave himself playing for me, my pathetic excuse for strategy, and Matt. All of us working together to beat Dave.
Wow.
So it was, including 2 times where I did something so stupid they just let me take it back completely.
That's hilarious.
So so that was not I did not cover myself in glory on that week, and that was kind of frustrating but fun. And I really appreciated Dave coming through for me. Last week I played 40K again. Nurgle on Nurgle using all my models, which I loved because I have all these models, and my new thing is if I paint something, I want to try to get it on the table as soon as possible, so I know it's at least gotten on the table once. So I finished all those Nurgle models, and then Rafe said he wanted to play, and he had a bunch of Nurgle models, but they weren't painted yet. So I put together 3 750-point lists for him to choose from, and we played narrative mode, which none of us had played before because Rafe is Rafe, and he wants to always kind of like blaze new territory. And the narrative mode, of course, is almost entirely random, and it's got a story element to it, and it's usually going to be asymmetrical. And so we did that, and we rolled up an ambush scenario where I was ambushing him, and he was trying to get off the table. And it was this crazy thing where a whole bunch of stuff that we hadn't fielded before got on there. And it came down to 3 inches of movement, and he rolled his run, or his advance, which is the same as a run, and he made it to the table edge, and I gave it to him. I was like, good job, and we shook hands. And then he went, oh my god, wait, that guy's got Cataphracti armor, which only goes D3 instead of D6, so he missed it by 3 inches, which gave me 1 chance, and I went in there, and I just had all kinds of crazy luck and killed the guy in one turn of shooting.
Wow.
And psychic.
Oh, wow.
So it was awesome. It went right down to the wire. If he had gotten that guy off, he would have won. It was really fun. It took probably about 2 hours to play a 750-point game, but we were just totally relaxed about it. And Rafe had only ever played one other 8th edition game. And it just, again, I stand by the fact that even though these games take forever, I'm never bored during the game. I'm always having fun. So that was a blast. And then last night, Russ and I played Rune Wars.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I had been painting up a storm so that I would have all these options for my Legions of Wakar the Undying. Indeed. And that did not go well, as none of these games against Russ has gone well. So I don't know. There are Twitter pictures of both battles and all the armies that I've painted up recently on my Twitter feed at D6G Craig. And if you're curious to what these forces look like, I don't know if I will be, but I should say, Russ,
yes,
that after swearing off Rune Wars last night,
yes,
I did just make a major purchase of more Rune Wars miniatures.
Oh, sweet, because I want to paint my elves, and I was afraid you weren't going to play anymore.
Yeah, so I might not. Yeah,
the elves won handily, so they've earned a code of.
I was crushed, like ridiculously crushed again, with a totally different army in Russ's hands this time, and like it wasn't even close. There was nothing. I could make nothing happen on my side of the board. This game, it won't sink into my head. I think it's because there are so many choices that like I just get bogged down and I freeze is what I think, to be honest. I mean, from the moment you're choosing deployment zones, and I think there may be a little weird thing there where you get to pick the deployment zone and you get to place down the first piece of terrain, which means if it's an odd number, which it is half the time, you're getting to place more terrain also. So I think that's a really kind of a double whammy advantage. But other than that, it was I will take full blame for the loss. And yes, I have a bunch of humans incoming, and we'll see how the humans do, considering I can't make the undead stand up.
There you go. Well, I think,
Right.
yeah. Well, my theory on Rune Wars is never let your opponent pick the deployment zones if you're going to get stuck in a corner. This is my new theory.
Right.
I don't know if that matters.
Right.
But that's
Right.
my
Which
theory.
only ever applied to last night's game.
That's true.
And didn't apply to any of the other games where you kicked my butt and I could barely put a wound on any of your models. So
That's fair.
we'll wait and see. And then we did get sent a new game, Rail Raiders Infinite from Ninja
yes.
Division,
Yeah.
Russ, which is right up your alley.
No, that looks awesome because
Yeah.
basically it's train heisting, right?
Oh, it's Colt Express,
Yes.
basically, with chibi minis.
Yeah.
Cool.
And in sci-fi.
Yeah.
And the dice mechanic for all of your actions and your fighting is actually dice that have card. They have King, Jack, Queen, Ace, 9, and 10 on them. And so you're rolling these dice and you're trying to make poker hands. So I get a little brain bonked because I'm like, oh god, I need the cheat sheet. Whereas Russ, of course, is an old hand at cards, and so can just roll there and see what I did there. So yeah, want to get more of that into the rotation because that was a lot of fun. What about you, Russ?
Oh, well, not as much as you and Steven have been playing, but I did get... So we spoke about Dragonfire, right? The new deck-building game from our friends at Catalyst Game Labs, set in the Dungeons & Dragons themed universe. And I've played now... My daughters really, really like it. So we've played now several campaign modes, and I have to say, Craig, the campaign mode is so much better than the learning mode. It's not even
Then all I can say is it was a
comparable.
huge marketing error to include
was,
that
because
that pamphlet in that book
I
box.
This is the thing, Steven, about this game. It's a great game, but the demo mode, like the learning mode, does simplify the game, but the victory conditions is like wipe out all the bad guys.
All the monsters in the whole game.
The thing is, in the regular game, like in the level 1 missions, you never have to do that. And it's actually, they're really cool. Like you got like escorts and defend and like all these cool things. And so my advice to you out there is when you try Dragonfire, do not. I mean, play the intro mode because it teaches you
just
the big mechanics.
through two monsters.
Two monsters. Go through 2 or 3 monsters just to get the feel of it. Then stop, make your characters for real, and do one of the campaign modes you'll
with
love.
all the cool stuff that's in.
So good. There's locations and there's events that happen each round and really cool. And it's gotten down the wire every time, but we are winning and we're leveling up and getting experience points. It's pretty cool.
Cool.
Also, I did play a Stronghold game, Steven.
Nice.
Pit Crew. So as you know, my wife is an automotive journalist and she's always doing things with car folks. So I thought, this Pit Crew game she might enjoy. So we broke it out and we had a great time with it. It's this is a Jeff Engelstein game, right?
Yeah.
And Craig, I don't know if you've seen this yet, but what I like about this game is that it's automatically dividing into teams. So the way Jeff set it up is that you are... Whenever you're in a situation with these cars, basically the theme is, right, as Stephen could tell you, that you are the unsung heroes of the race. You are the pit crew. You're not actually the drivers at all, right? So you each have a little card, and that's the top-down view of your car. And each player has a hand of cards, and you're trying to get the right combinations of numbers next to each tire. And when you do this, it represents that you've changed that tire properly. And so you're trying to get all 4 tires set up, as well as the fuel tank, and eventually also doing engine repairs for each round. And what's kind of neat about it is it's all, and I think this is becoming a Jeff trademark, Steven, because he's got several games like this. There's no real turns in the game. You just sort of go.
It's all real time. It's a real-time game, just like it is in a real pit crew. I mean, if they don't get the car back on the track in like 3.7 seconds, the driver's in trouble.
But my favorite mechanic is the mistake mechanic, or the intentional mistake mechanic, depending on how you look at it. So basically what happens is as soon as you think your car's ready, you grab this D6 and your side starts rolling, right? So, and it's usually in pairs. So in a 4-player game, there's 2 cars racing, and then there's 2 of you putting the cards in the car, and I'm talking to my daughter like, okay, I've got the right number for this tire. Okay, I've got the right number for that tire. And you get the tires all set up. You lock everything down. You go, you start rolling the dice, and every time you get a 6, there's a little sideboard with little meeple cars, and you're trying to get your car to go around the track. And every time you get a 6, you get to move your car. So you're doing this now, and the other team hasn't finished pitting yet, and they're realizing they're feeling the pressure of, oh my God, you're rolling this die. You're going to get way ahead of me. So they're going to try to finish their car, and as soon as they finish, you stop. And because basically the team that got done first had that opportunity to get a little ahead, you stop now, and now you compare both cars and see if any mistakes were made. And if mistakes were made, right, the non-mistake team gets free advances on the track.
Yep.
And these mistakes, because basically with the tires, for example, you're trying to put alternating numbers down, right? But then you get bonus situations for having alternating numbers in the same color. So there's all these little subtle ways to get bonuses, to make mistakes. It's a really neat game. Our only little nuance to it is there's not a good catch-up mechanic. So there is a catch-up mechanic, but you can get so far ahead, and it really depends on the dice rolls. But the thing about the game that's great is it's so fast you just play again. So
it's a 15-minute game, and
right,
you do it again, and don't play against the Engelsteins. I'm just going to tell you that. Right? Just going to tell you that they will kill you at the game. So, and I suck at it. It's so much fun.
It captures the theme, and I love the bits. The meeple cards, Stephen, are awesome. So, another great little game there. And if you're looking for a game that's totally different, this is definitely one of those games. Really cool experience. And then, as Craig mentioned, played Rune Wars with my elves. As I think I mentioned on the show before, when I was at Gen Con, I got 2 boxes of the elves, so enough to be dangerous, with a couple of substitutions in for my humans, and they did very well, as you mentioned, so I'm all excited to paint them up now. And speaking of painting, what about modeling? So, Stephen, have you done any painting or collecting? I think you're more of a board game builder than model painter. Is that correct?
Sadly, I don't have the eyes or the patience or the time to do any modeling. And I think that at some point, I think last year I said, like, I got to try to just play a simple miniatures game with you guys. Because I do love war games, and I do love that whole idea of, putting out something tactical and then fighting with it. I love that. So, and I like the simple, like, board game versions of model, when you have lots of miniatures on a board. So, I mean, I would love to try that someday with you, that you're one of the simpler systems that you like, and just play a few rounds with you. But no, sadly,
next event,
I don't.
I'm going to bring everything you need to try this out.
Yes, you're going to do it for me.
I will.
All right.
I will. Next
All
convention,
right,
we'll figure this out.
Do it.
Are you going to PAX Unplugged?
Stronghold will be there.
Oh, that's wow. Okay.
So no, but I have to be. No, I didn't take the day off. Me take a day off. I haven't taken a day off in my life, really. People like yell at me because they'll see me like on a vacation in Cabo, and please, I'm working like every day anyway. But no, I'll be at BGG Con that week. They coincided them. They won't do that in the future, they said, but they did it this year. So I'm sending a team there, literally a crack team. Some of my best people that work at all my other conventions. They're going to be going and representing Stronghold, doing exactly the same thing. But my core audience, kind of really wants me there. So I will hook you up with stuff at PAX Unplugged.
Great. Excellent. I look forward to not seeing you at PAX Unplugged. That'll be fantastic.
There might be a standee of Stephen Buonocore there.
That would be awesome. Of life-size.
I'm actually serious.
I'm going to take a selfie. If that's there, I will take a selfie with it in bicycle shorts. You must be in bicycle shorts.
I should not.
That is just not.
No,
that
it's not
should
good.
happen. I will take a selfie of you with bicycle shorts. I would expect to see that. In fact, Stephen, you should have a life-size version of yourself in a costume for every one of the games you make, and then you can just put them next to the piles of games. Act different things. I think that'd be
kind of in Vanna White poses.
Exactly.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Oh, that is so horrible.
You should totally do that. I think this should happen. I think your brand is you. You are your brand, Stephen.
That's
true.
Will take
you
are the brand. Give it all due consideration.
And this is why we're not in marketing. See.
That's right.
Craig, what about yourself, sir? What have you been doing for modeling?
Well, let's see. So I had already done all of the undead from 2 core boxes for Rune Wars, and then I went and I got one of each of the expansions that they sell. And on eBay, I got 20 additional undead warriors so that I would have as many undead warriors I thought I could need, and then painted them all. And that was a lot of undead guys to paint. So I ended up painting 6 more trays of archers. 4 more trays of archers. 4, 5, 6 more trays of the hand-to-hand guys. I got Ankor Maro, the new commander. And of course, Ankor Maro has his special army-wide ability is you can field one of any non-unique unit from any other army in the game. So I had to go and finish my rune golems for my humans because I thought that would be cool to field against Russ. I was wrong, but I thought it would be cool. And so I finished them, and I loved the way they looked. So I immediately started painting my humans before Russ handed my bony skeletal butt to me. And so I am now in the process of painting 2 starter boxes worth of the Dakan Lords infantry and cavalry and their hero and command units. And then today I just secured, not exactly sure how many more, but it might be 2 more full starters worth of Dakan models.
Wow, that's a lot of undead, dude.
So not undead. These are the human guys.
Oh, right.
I'm not painting any more undead until someone can prove to me that this particular group of models can win anything. They're not going to be seeing the table again. So that's what I've been modeling.
Excellent.
Do that and Elven Runes because you had some cool terrain that came with your box.
Yeah,
and I wanted to have. Yeah.
Yeah, they introduced each of the new starter box for the elves comes with some cool new terrain, and some cool new missions and some cool new deployment things. So it adds a little bit of depth to the game as well, which is pretty cool.
And I think a lot of the expansions do, like my Ankar Maro, the wizard, the necromancer commander for the undead did the same. He had 2 new pieces of terrain and a new mission and a new deployment card. So it's cool. On the other hand, the more cards in those decks, the less likely you are to see the cool stuff, the cool new stuff. So it's weird, but we made it work last night by just choosing cool stuff.
Exactly.
Oh, and I want to coin the phrase "Losapalooza," by the way. Rune Wars Losapalooza 2017.
That seems fair.
Yeah.
I feel like you need to lose a few more before it's a palooza.
Yeah.
I feel like
I feel like I've lost a lot.
All right. Okay. Well, anyway, that's modeling. What about other geeky goodness, Steven? So this is like books you're reading, TV shows you're watching, comic books. What are you checking out lately?
I've been spending my time really heavily getting into all of the sci-fi that's been out there. I mean, like
that's right.
The sci-fi TV that out there is just so good. So obviously, and I'm trying to do it in as it's coming out. With a little bit, not too much delay on it. So did The Expanse season 2, and I just thought that was just fantastic. I'm just waiting again on season 3. You have to wait until next year for that. Just finished up Killjoys and Dark Matter. Right, they just finished about I think it was in August, and they just finished their second season, third seasons.
Third season, I think.
Third seasons, right there. I mean, really, I think The Expanse of all the 3 sci-fi shows, I think it's the best one. There's nothing. I think that both of those shows are doing a darn good job of keeping up the tension and things like that. So, I mean, I highly recommend if you got some extra time and you're watching one of them to check out the other ones as well.
Well, you might not want to check out Dark Matter.
No, not like
it got canceled. No, it got canceled.
Oh, did it? Did it get canceled?
They announced that. I think what they did was they gave Killjoys the next Dark Matter season. That's what I think.
Which is worth it. Killjoys is awesome.
Killjoys got announced that they would have 2 seasons to finish their story arc, and Dark Matter was getting axed.
It's a shame. So, I think you're probably right. They probably said, "All right, we're going to survive one of them."
Yeah, so but I mean, I'm on record. I thought the Dark Matter concept was cooler than the Killjoys concept, but Killjoys developed a concept way faster than Dark Matter developed acting and writing.
I kind of agree with that. I think that the Dark Matter idea was really amazing, and I thought that they had the first season was just fantastic, and they rolled it well. I thought that they just didn't have enough ways of continuing that once you found out what was going on with them and things like that. There wasn't enough there. But Killjoys continued to roll it, and there was more intrigue between the various places and people that you were seeing. So, yeah, I agree. If you had to survive one of those, then Killjoys was the right one. I watched Defenders.
What did you think of that?
Well, so Iron Fist was a disaster. I mean, I think it was I guess I should have mentioned that one too, because that was in the middle of this too. Iron Fist, I think, was an unmitigated disaster. I mean, I watched it and it was like the I Am Danny Rand show. It was like, he constantly, this like weird young, not that the actor was all that young, but the weird young angst thing going on, and it just wasn't good. I mean, compared to the other shows that they put out, on Netflix in the Marvel universe, it was just, wow, this is not good. So then they brought the Defenders back, and it seemed like, while there were some upticks, I think, in the show, it seemed like the same writer from Iron Fist was doing the Defenders. So no, I did not like it that much. I think it has some potential, and I'm looking forward to them doing another season of it. And I maybe they did Iron Fist just to set this up, because that was the last part of the Defenders, right? So I mean, maybe that was it. So I'm kind of looking forward to them taking it to the next level. But I really, really, really like Nick Cage.
Nick Cage.
Luke Cage.
Nicolas Cage would be somebody else.
Right. I really like Luke Cage, and I really like the Daredevil, and I like Jessica Jones
had the
as
best
well.
lines in the whole series. They really helped her.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
But each one of their shows too, I think, kind of were good and shined on their own. I'm hoping that once now they bring these guys together and get a little more, some more interesting writing going on, that it'll be good. So it was not great, but but the really cool thing, I think, that just happened, I think, was Star Trek Discovery. And I know there's all kinds of stuff out there, and I'm only talking about the first 2 episodes because that's all I've seen. Mm-hmm. I am not going to subscribe, only because there's so much great sci-fi out there. So I'm not going to continue to subscribe. I thought that was a very powerful first 2 episodes, and the naysayers are being, I think, just, being silly, trying to be naysayers because they're purists, because only like certain things are allowed to be Star Trek and stuff like that. It's not fair, guys. I mean, really, I think that's one of those elitist kind of things that we have to take ourselves away from and say, like, everything evolves, writing evolves, media evolves, and direction and the way that you produce things. So yeah, could they have used less lens flares in the show? Yeah, okay, I guess so, maybe. But should that be something that people like go out of their way to criticize? I don't know. I thought it was full of really good Star Trek stuff, from the stuff that the backbone of what Star Trek is made of. That we are out there for peace, and we're out there, and diversity is part of what we do, and everyone's opinions matter. And I enjoyed it. I have
thoughts on this show.
Okay.
So not like hater thoughts, because I liked it. I really enjoyed it. There were only 2 things about the show I didn't really enjoy, and it was really nothing to do with like Trek canon situation, but it was one. I thought the pacing was really slow. So I felt like they could have done a little more, a little faster. Like it felt a little slow. And then the other thing about it is, and I don't know why they chose to do this, but there was quite a bit, and I actually liked the new Klingons, but there was quite a bit of dialogue on the Klingon ships with just the Klingons in the room. And I think they thought it would be more powerful or more authentic or whatever, since there's a fully realized Klingon language out there, thanks to the years and years of Star Trek, to have them speak entirely in Klingon with subtitles. And I found this distracting. And I was just kind of like, can we... Because I loved the scenes of in Next Gen with the Klingons on their homeworld all talking, and with, all the different, Galron and that whole plot line. And it worked because when the actors are speaking English, they can do cool inflections, and there's these emotions, and they have more range. When you're actually trying to pronounce Klingon accurately... You're almost like, you can tell the actors are almost distracted trying to get the words right, as opposed to trying to act.
There was some serious Klingon going on there. Seriously. I mean, it was like... It
was right. And it was to the point of distraction, because it was like they had to move their lips so wide to get the words out. It was almost like distracting for me.
Yeah.
So it was not about like what the Klingons... It was just like, hey, when everybody in the room is a Klingon, can we do the traditional thing of just going to English after a few words of Klingon, so we all know they're speaking Klingonese, but we're all... And then, yeah, if you're in a room with mixed characters, go back to subtitles if you want. But kind of, you know what I mean? Like, it would have been... I think they got a little too absorbed with wanting to have all that Klingon language, you know... And I can only imagine how much coaching it took these poor actors to be able to speak, because there's like parts where it's like almost like 15 minutes of dialogue. Or 20 minutes of dialogue.
They're giving Shakespearean monologues in Klingon. I was actually very impressed. I mean, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, and it certainly isn't a way to bring in a new audience, let's put it that way, right? So, like, let's just say you're like, oh, well, you know, I like Star Wars, or I'm a science fiction fan. Let me look at this Star Trek thing. Maybe I'm young and I don't know too much about it, and they're watching it and they're going on and on and on in Klingon. And I did not mind it, but I completely get what you're saying. That's distracting, if nothing else. It's because you're trying to look at the actor, then you're looking down.
I want to ask you something else here now. This is going to be controversial, but
controversial. I love controversy.
Have you seen the Orville yet?
I should have written that down too in our show notes that I'm referencing here.
Have you seen all 3 episodes, including the egg laying episode?
No, I have seen only one of them. Okay. Yes, I saw the first one only.
So I've watched all 3 now. So there's 3 out, or at least there's 3 available for through the Xbox to purchase. So I've watched all 3 now, and I will say this. So I went from first, a couple things about Orville surprised me. One, they actually have an effects budget. It's not as good as Discovery. Like, the Discovery's budget is like movie level effects. Like,
yeah, it's really good.
You know, like you watch Game of Thrones and you're like, holy crap, I'm watching.
How could that possibly be going on? Yes.
Star Trek Discovery is like that. It's like a J.J. Abrams effect situation going on. Which I was really blown away by. Like, Discovery looks fantastic. Orville looks like a good budget, but it's still obviously a TV show. But it looks pretty good. And I thought the ship designs, like, going in as a comedy, I was like, wow, the ship designs are actually pretty cool, and they're consistent, and it's pretty interesting, and they've actually put some thought behind this. And then when they got to, like, shots of the city, I'm like, wow, they have a budget here. And when they got to the characters, yes, there's some, I don't want to call it slapstick comedy, but there's a lot of comedy, like almost the Tick level comedy. But at the same time, there's a real show and real character development happening, and I found myself caring about the characters. I'm like, wait a minute, I actually... care about these people.
That's a good sign, though. That's good comedy.
That's a very good sign.
And then, in the 3rd episode, they tackled a political topic in a way that really was the kind of thing that only, like, the original series and occasionally Next Gen got right. And it was so well done. I mean, I know people are like picking on that episode because it was kind of silly but funny at the same time. And the scene with the courtroom when they start talking about body parts was hilarious. But the thing about it is, if you think back to the original Star Trek had a fair amount of camp in it. Like, there was always the silly banter and sort of the silly jibes between, Kirk and Spock and McCoy. Like, there were one-liners and comedy, and it was very much in the original series. It was borderline camp, especially when you look at the costume levels of the different creatures and stuff. So I feel like it's funny. Orville feels very close to the original series in feeling, and Discovery feels like it's gone to a place, like, there was very little comic relief in Discovery, like very little.
No, right? Like zero. No, like, zero. Like basically,
very not dark's the wrong word, but it's very serious.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at there isn't a Star Trek that's that serious, right? Star Trek always has a little bit of, like, and I'm not saying it's bad. It's taken the show to an interesting new place, but what I found myself feeling was like the Orville almost feels more like Star Trek than Discovery feels like Star Trek, which is, I'm not picking on Discovery. It's just, I was surprised to feel, I don't know how you feel about it, but I was surprised to feel that way.
Here's my, and I've seen one episode of the Orville, and the only reason is I missed it, and then I went back, and then my DVR hasn't caught up, or I haven't gone out and found the other ones yet. But I will get to Orville. I'm going to watch it. Here's my opinion of Orville. First of all, maybe the worst name of any show of all time. We'll start with that. I mean, I just can't believe they called the show the Orville. I mean,
it's like the Tick. It's the same.
Anything else? I mean, they could have called it anything, but bad name. But I I went in looking at the coming attractions and stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a disaster. It's like a train wreck. I can see it happening. It's going to be awful. And I watched it, and I said, they picked all of the dumb jokes sort of that were out of context to put in the
trailer.
The teasers, right? In the trailer, I guess. And they didn't put any of like really kind of what the show is about. So I liked the first episode of The Orville. I liked it quite a bit. Obviously, it's comedic, but it's not like Spaceballs slapstick. No. They're just throwing in the comedy here and there. It's not. I wouldn't say you mentioned like the original Star Trek. I wouldn't say it's like that because they're still doing like the interplay, say, between the captain and the first officer who were married at one time, and they're like fighting like married couple and stuff like that. So that comedy is still there. But yes, there's a seriousness behind what they're doing as well. And I thought it was a very strong, weird first episode, but something I'm like, oh yeah, I'm watching this. This is something I'm definitely going to continue trying to see if they can pull it off. And now that you're mentioning that interesting, heavy topics get brought up in, like you said in the third episode, yes, that sounds really cool. So now we can have something we can laugh at too,
the dichotomy
and be heavy.
of it is really interesting. And the other thing, and there's already an ongoing shtick between, and they bring these little jokes out that are funny regardless. But then as a Star Trek fan, they're really funny. Like they actively make fun of the holodeck in this thing in a way that's great, because it's like, oh yes, this is the obligatory holodeck scene that became a shtick in Next Gen, but they do it in a way that's like the one guy's just like always goofing around with the holodeck program, and it's, I don't know, I can't spoil. Just
yes,
it's worth watching. Get through the third episode. Yes, there's weird stuff. Yes, it's out there, but I'm finding myself really enjoying it and actively caring about the characters, which I would not have thought. I would have thought this would have been opposite. Like the problem with Discovery right now is like I'm having trouble relating to the characters in Discovery still. I haven't found a character I really get yet, and maybe it's because it just needs a little more time, but I don't know. I was surprised. I was just surprised, that's all. Because I was with you, Steven. I thought it was going to be like just pure slapstick dorkiness.
I was saying I'm going to watch this. It's going to be an absolute train wreck. Sorry, Seth MacFarlane, but I watched it. I'm like, yeah, this is not so bad.
I'm nervous now. I'm nervous because Fox is already moving it around. I'm already seeing it was on Sunday. Now it's on Wednesday. Now it's got another new time. And I'm hoping that streaming saves it. But you could have a situation here where by the end of the first season, they really figure this thing out and it could be decent. And it could get canceled because it just isn't on the time slot. But what might save it is the fact that Discovery is so hard to get to because CBS is doing the stupid subscribe to our specific CBS channel. Right? So they may... If you want your Star Trek fix, people might go to the Orville because it's easier to get to.
You got to admit one thing about this, as you said, stupid CBS thing. It was the most brilliant marketing move of all time. It's sort of like,
if it works,
it's a drug. It's like your first hit's free or your first two hits are free. Now you want it, you got hooked in. Now you got to pay us for the rest of it.
But so it's interesting that you're saying it's brilliant, though, Stephen, because you've just admitted that you're not going to subscribe, so it didn't work for you.
No,
and you're a Star Trek guy.
Well, let's put it this way. I'm not doing it right now. God only knows. The more I keep hearing about it, I might pull the trigger on it. But I'm not committed to it right now. I think it's very, very, very good, and I know a lot of people who are buying it. So,
I will say this. So I as a cord cutter, so we've talked about this in the show before. Nicole and I now have a budget. So what we basically do is most of the shows we actually buy them through one of the services because since we don't pay these exorbitant cable bills anymore, we figure like during new show season you can afford to spend $30 to $40 a month on new shows because then during the off season you're not paying anything.
Fair.
And I do subscribe to a couple things, like Netflix has enough shows on it, that we enjoy, that we keep that. But then what I do is like, I'll subscribe to HBO Go during Game of Thrones, and then I cancel it.
Sure.
I pay basically essentially $20 to have for 2 months to have. But so now since HBO Go I've turned off, I figure I can afford CBS. but I will kill CBS, and if it came down to Discovery or Game of Thrones, obviously it'd be Game of Thrones. So So I think that's the risk they run. Whereas opposed to if it was on Xbox and I could just buy the season right now, I might buy the season and pull the trigger and stick with it. As opposed to paying monthly and getting burnt out.
Right.
I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so Craig, what about you, sir? What have you been?
What about me? Well, let's see. I finished The Dark Tower, and I'm very curious. If you read or listened to The Dark Tower, and when Stephen King tells you that you should stop and not read anymore, I'm very interested if anyone has ever actually done that and not continued reading.
Oh, God, you got to read the rest. Come on.
I know, but I'm very curious because he makes a very good case for stop reading right now and it's going to be a certain kind of ending. Continue reading and you're going to find out totally different things that are going to completely change. I'm just very curious if there's anyone out there who did, in fact, stop when Stephen King said, if I were you, honestly, I would stop. I'm just very curious because it out Stephen King to Stephen King, that ending. It was quite intriguing. So it was interesting. I'm glad that I went through it all, but I don't think I need to go back to it. And I'll take any sort of alternative media version that comes down the pike, whether it's another TV show or whatever, on a case by case basis. Watching The Preacher, still love that.
Oh my God, that's just a good show.
I'm watching a bunch of non-geeky stuff because we have cut our cord. I don't know if I've mentioned that on the show yet. Karen wanted to do that for a long time. She's been working secretly with Russ to do this against me. I think
I have plans within plans, Craig.
A whole conspiracy. And all of a sudden, I don't have any actual TV. But that's okay because we have Hulu, and Hulu has live TV, so I can at least check out the news and sports and stuff like that through Hulu. But Hulu is like Netflix, only worse, because you're watching a show on Hulu just like you do on Netflix, except on Netflix, when you finish the season, recommendations come up, but they don't auto-load.
Yeah.
And Hulu, it auto-loads the recommendation.
You can you can turn that off, though.
No. I was painting, Russ.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I didn't notice what was happening. And so I was watching the last couple of episodes of Stan Against Evil, which we talked about last episode. And I didn't notice that it had started, that it auto-loaded, and what it chose to auto-load was very intriguing. It chose to auto-load Archer Season 1, Episode 1, which I'm a huge Archer fan already. I love Archer. I think it's hilarious. It's very, very funny. And so I was like, Archer, I wonder how that happened. Oh, well, I'll watch this. Next thing you know, I'm halfway through Season 1, and I'm not watching any new TV. So that happened. And now I've stopped watching Archer and I've gone back to try. I got to finish out Preacher. I've heard good things about what's that vampire TV show where they're in New York and they just nuked the Statue of Liberty last season.
Oh my God! What show is that?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Tell me what that is. I gotta go watch it.
What is it called? It's like one word. Screamers,
I don't want to see any nuking in New York.
But it's intriguing the way it happens. Vampires TV, New York City. The Strain. Look, it did. First one. Boom. The Strain.
Yeah, okay.
And it's like it's like half vampire, half zombie thing. It's intriguing. It's kept me going. So it's like some of it's like, and then out of it's like, wow, that's really neat. And I've heard some really cool things about the final season, which just wrapped up. It's a summer show. So that's pretty much me. I'm intending to go back and watch that, I hope. And what about you, Russ?
Well, real quick, because we talked about Discovery for a bit there. Playing God of War 3 on the PlayStation. Enjoying that, actually. It's an old school game, kind of, from a while ago, but I'm really enjoying that. Also, Craig, I'm near the very end of your book. I'm loving it on Audible.
Thank you.
Last couple hours here for the big finale. That's good. And up next, I found a book. It's got recommended to me by a friend. I don't know if this is going to be good or not. We're going to find out. It's Updraft by Fran Wilde. So it's book one of the Bone universe, and there's going to be a bunch of these. Or she's got like 3 or 4 out. Looks kind of like a steampunk, sort of like Air Society type situation. I don't know exactly. I'll let you know more once you start reading it. But look kind of cool. I have, in fact, judged a book by its cover. I based it entirely on its cover, and one person's recommendation. Also, I'm very excited for the next big video game release, Shadow of War. This is the follow-up to Shadow of Mordor. This looks awesome, so I can't wait for that. And I discovered one other new show that I was pleasantly surprised by, Ghosted. Have you heard of this one, guys? Ghosted?
Vaguely. It might have been you over dinner last night.
Yeah.
What? That's I heard about this.
So it's on Fox, but it's also on Hulu, so you can watch it, Craig, for free with your Hulu subscription.
Yeah.
This is let's see, two guys. One of the dudes is from Parks and Rec, so if you're familiar with that show, you'll recognize one guy. And they are basically, one guy is sort of a retired in disgrace physics professor, and the other guy is a retired in disgrace or dismissed beat cop. And all of a sudden, they are inexplicably just like sort of like a secret clandestine government organization kidnaps both of them. And this happens in like the first 30 seconds of the show, so no spoilers. And basically reveals to both of them that there are, in fact, alternate realities and things are happening and they need their help. And so it quickly turns into a sci-fi show where these two guys are trying to figure it out. And the disgraced professor is disgraced because he thinks alternate realities are real, and of course they are. And the cop is disgraced. We don't really know why yet, but he's like, they need these investigative skills. So it actually reminded me a little bit, because it's very much a comedy, a little bit of Dirk Gently's, a little bit, but in a good way, which I like Dirk Gently. So I enjoyed the first episode. We'll see if it gets stronger, but my whole family is really into it. So Ghosted on Fox might be another great sci-fi comedy show. So
cool.
Whew, is that achievements, gentlemen?
That's a lot of achievements I think we went through.
Sure is.
And now, in an attempt to bring a small amount of dignity and decorum to this otherwise base form of entertainment, and I use the term loosely, I am proud to present...
Oh, get on with it. It's time for App of the Ep.
Seriously, Wakeland? I used to have my own segment, now I'm relegating to announcing this pap.
Hey, you're lucky we still use you. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another App of the Ep. This time around, I've got two. Because I feel like I should review a game, or at least talk about a game. But I also wanted to talk about a practical app as well that I really find interesting. First, the game. So I've tried out this app just because it looked cool. So iOS introduced a new app store, and it's all fancy, and it promotes games a little more detailed. And so I got sucked into this one promotion for a game called Red Tides, which was billing itself as sort of a hybrid between a MOBA and an RTS. And the graphics looked amazing, and the unit design looked really cool. And the art looked cool. So I was like, well, I'll try this out. And the good news is it's well, I don't know, good news. It's free to play. But then, of course, they got microtransactions. So it was easy to jump in and check it out. And when I jumped in and checked it out, it was the intro movie, it's worth downloading just for the intro movie. The intro movie is super long, amazing CGI, really cool intro movie. My daughter's watching, goes, oh, I can see where the entire development budget went for this game, which is probably not that untrue. But so the intro movie's really cool, worth doing it just for that. But then also the gameplay, I'm still not sure about this gameplay. So it's kind of like, I don't know. The units look awesome. I'm not really sure how innovative the gameplay is. So basically, it's a side-scrolling screen, but top-down sort of isometric view of your guys. And so on one half of the screen is your base, and on the other slot, you slide to the right, on the other half of the screen is the opponent's base. And you basically start cranking out units. Now, unlike an RTS like StarCraft, you're not actually controlling each individual unit and moving it around. The units just start walking to the right. So it's kind of like, tower defense, dual-sided tower defense is basically what it is. So your guys start walking to the right. Now, you are controlling, though, basically your army composition. So what you're doing is you're choosing which units to build, and you're choosing which combinations of units to build. And then these combinations of units come out in waves all paired together. So you may want a couple of flyers, maybe a tank, and a bunch of infantry. But there are unit caps. So eventually, as you play, you're going to be designing the right combinations, up-leveling certain units. Maybe you've hit your max unit count, so you're going to reduce a couple guys so you can add a couple more of this more advanced unit. But then there's paper, scissors, rocks, and so your opponent figures out the best units to counter that unit, so you start creating the other units. So there is some interesting strategy going on, but it's really strategy around what you were kind of dumping to the table, if that makes sense. I can't decide if I like this or not, but it's pretty interesting and it looks really cool. So definitely check out Red Tides. You can't go wrong with the price. It is free. And let me know if you think it's cool. Now, the second one I wanted to mention here is actually one that I use at work all the time. And it's kind of funny because most of my coworkers haven't seen this thing, and it is so handy. So as many of you may know, I am a product manager in my other life. And anyone who works, if you're a project manager or a product manager, or you're a software developer who works in an agile environment, you know that your world revolves around Post-it notes, those little sticky notes you stick on the wall or your whiteboard and work through, right? And these are just a really practical way to work through an idea, a concept, show where the workflow is, have your scrum board on the wall, whatever the case may be. All of us who do manage projects or manage software projects live in a world of Post-it notes. Now, a lot of times when you're working on a bunch of brainstorming ideas, or you're ideating, as we like to say, you get all these stickies on the wall and you somehow want to capture them for later, right? And of course, most of us just take a picture with our phone camera and we have it. But you can't rearrange the Post-its very easily. You've captured them down. Now you got to transfer them all to some other way to do it. Well, it turns out that the folks at the Post-it note company, you know, the guys who make the Post-it notes, these guys actually have an app for your iPhone and Android phone called Post-it. Post-it. And this app is, quite frankly, amazing, and it's totally free because they're trying to get you to buy more Post-its, and it is totally working on me. So what you basically do is you fire this app up, and then you take a picture of your wall covered in Post-its with the app. And what the app does is it detects and identifies all the Post-its on the wall, frames them as soon as you take the picture, and then creates essentially a little notebook there of images of all the notes, but separated out by mini images. So what this allows you to do is on your phone, you can literally rearrange the Post-its on your phone as if it were the wall. But then you can export these things to a PDF file. But what I like to export them to is a PowerPoint presentation, because it dumps them into PowerPoint. And again, when you look in PowerPoint, every Post-it is a separate object inside the PowerPoint deck. So you can drag and drop, slide them around, rearrange them, redesign things. A fantastic way, especially if you have some remote people in the room when you're doing this, to share this information. So I know this is a little work related, but I just had to share this because I think it's a super cool app. And if you're a gamer, maybe you want to have Post-its on the wall for your next D&D session, or your RPG, or you're coming up with some crazy ideas for armies and you got Post-its all over the place and you want to capture it, definitely check this out. It just makes capturing Post-it information so cool and easy, and I love that it keeps the Post-its separate, and then you can rearrange them or whatever. So again, that's Post-it for iOS. And then if you want to try out that crazy RTS/MOBA/tower defense game, that was Red Tides.
Thank you for listening to another scintillating edition of App of the App, a segment in which,
Hey, less of that. More just getting on with the show.
seriously, Wakeland, you are like school in summer. No class.
Hey, welcome back. And of course, we've got Steven on the show. And of course, Stronghold is like a giant that just keeps getting bigger and bigger due to some strange radioactive anomaly and just won't ever stop growing. So we need to know, what is this giant storming around the countryside doing? And who better to get that news from than the guy who keeps injecting it with the radioactive substance? Steven, welcome back.
That's it. Yes, that's I'm a disease
mad
that's
scientist.
spreading, or a mad scientist. What am I?
Indeed. I see you as a mad scientist of the gaming publishing world.
Oh, I'll accept such crazy cred or something like that. But thank you very much.
Yeah,
Glad to be here with you guys. It's so much fun.
It was nice seeing you from a distance at Gen Con. Hopefully Russ got to chat with you.
You were stopped by and I actually purchased some games, and Steven was kind of to give us some more games to check out. And always great to see you guys, Steven. Now it was hard though. I had to get wade past the massive lines.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that booth is busier and busier every year.
Yeah. It was a very busy show. I mean, you know, that is the essence of Gen Con, of course, is to really bring out the beginning of this year's, you know, big releases. And Gen Con was no different this year than it has been in the past. It was a very, very, very successful year.
I wanted to ask you a little about that. So, because, you know, Steven, as you mentioned before in prior shows, you go to a lot of conventions. What are you up to now? What's your total convention account every year now?
Oh, how many?
Yeah, well, how many do you guys go to?
In a year, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
2 a month?
Nah, it's fine. I don't really count, so I don't have it in my head. So it's, we do all the major ones really, and then we're, but besides the ones that the people know about, right? That the gamers know, we also have to be at all of the trade shows.
Yeah, right.
Right, exactly. I'll call them trade shows or distributor open houses. So you have to be earlier in the year. You have GAMA, the GAMA trade show. That's all of the publishers showing off all of their stuff for all the retailers. And then you have the Alliance trade show, the ACD trade show, PhD. Every one of the major distributors basically has one of those of their own in a different area of the country. So you have to be there for that. And we've added some shows this year. Next year I'm considering getting myself to the UK Games Expo because I just hear it's so good.
So you're just extending your reach. But let me ask you this. So I know you got a lot. You got tons of these things. I was just trying to kind of establish that you go to a lot, which you clearly do. Where does Gen Con fit into the impact of these different shows? Is it sort of in the middle? Is it like if you had to remove a couple, Gen Con would definitely stay on your list? We talked about Essen in the past. I was kind of curious what your take on Gen Con is.
No, without a doubt. Gen Con is the largest show in the world. So there's no way that Gen Con would ever, slip out of the list of shows that Stronghold Games or anybody really who has had a presence.
I thought Essen was bigger, but Gen Con's bigger in your mind? Or
no, Gen Con is absolutely the biggest show. They as of at least a couple of years ago, because both of them have always been very big, right. But Gen Con's been growing and growing and growing. As of a couple of years ago, when they released their figures, they had become the biggest show. And they're big on several levels. Not only do they have this very big, of course, exhibit hall presence, but they've got so much other stuff going on, all in this one very concentrated area, and then extending out to now the Lucas Oil Stadium as well, and other places. Essen, which is my most important show, because that's a different statement, is only in this one convention center, and then once it shuts down, you're done for the day. Nothing happens. Everyone goes back to their hotel. Everyone goes to dinner, back to their hotels, and then you have to find a place to game. But Gen Con's like this almost 24-hour a day thing that goes on for 5 days. Yeah, it's crazy. So it is absolutely astonishingly big in every level. They didn't release this year their unique attendees, which is truly the measure, in my humble opinion, of how big, or just the number of people, right? It was the unique. So when you guys, when you count as one person, to me is a much better thing as a measurement than you count as 4 people. Now, when I rush your head, my count is 4 people alone. But besides, I have.
Yeah. Oh, ouch! But that's where the confusion has come in on Essen, though, because for years that's all Essen published, right? Was that turnstile number?
Right, they were only publishing turnstiles.
So, I wonder how much of that was on purpose to give themselves a larger, because for years everyone in America thought Essen had like 300,000 people going to it.
Their turnstiles were around 160,000, 170,000. They were getting in that number, but then Gen Con started publishing its uniques and turnstiles, and last year and this year they were both over 200,000 turnstiles. So they are now obviously bigger, with about 60,000 uniques. This is the first time Gen Con has not published uniques for some reason. Don't know why, but they have said that their target now, and they actually sold out this year. For those who don't know, their target attendance. Unique attendance is 60,000. Now we can talk about why they have elected that be their number and why they didn't publish that number. I don't know. It would be a little bit of speculative, but in general, they are definitely a bigger convention, and they're very, very important to the industry.
And did you feel just one more, because I thought Gen Con was kind of interesting this year for a bunch of reasons. Not only that it was the 50th, but did you find, since they sold out, was there a different feeling for you there? Did it feel more crowded, less crowded, about the same? in prior years? Or would you be disappointed to know it'll never get bigger than it is now?
Oh, I found it to be as big as it has ever been. I don't personally think it felt more crowded or larger than it had been in previous years. And no, I'm not disappointed that it won't get bigger. I mean, it is as big as it can be for the space that it is. In my humble opinion, if you really, for Gen Con to get any bigger, it needs to be in a different city. And I've talked about that in the past, that it sort of has outgrown Indianapolis. And Indianapolis is a great city. I really enjoy the things you can do there in the evenings. But it's not large enough to host 65, 70,000 people descending upon it for those 5 days. But there are very few cities in this country that can do that. So unless they're going to commit to going to Orlando or to Las Vegas, which they're not, then that's why they have to kind of cap it, in my humble opinion, to give everybody a good experience and not, have people tripping over each other and things like that.
Yep.
And being able to find hotel rooms. I mean, right?
Yeah,
the hotel room situation is crazy there.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't want to talk all about Gen Con, but I was just curious, since you do so many conventions, I really wanted to kind of hear your take on that. So what have you guys been focused on in the past year? I mean, do you guys do you pick, Stephen, how do you sort of pick the games you want to come out with in a given year? Do you go with a theme? Is it just based on what you're seeing that you like that's out there? Do you feel like, is it like 1 year going to be small, fast games, the next game going to be epic? You try to have a balance. Like, what is your thought process when you start thinking about the kind of games you want to come out with over the next, 12 to 24 months or whatever?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's there's not a lot of science to it. You might expect, like, oh, obviously I need to do X releases, and obviously I want to do this type of game. It's not really like that, and it really, I mean, the way Stronghold works, and the way it has worked for years now, is that we're doing quite a bit of releases with partners across the ocean. So we have many partners now in Europe, and we do games when we're presented games by great companies like 2F Spiele, and now our new strategic partner, Lauda Pellet, in Finland. I mean, we keep creating these partnerships, and when they want to do games, they present those games to us, and we say, this is a game that we want to add to our catalog as well. Sometimes they are as small and light, and a lot of my games this year were actually or will be kind of smaller games. I guess we'll talk about those in a second. And sometimes they're huge and tremendous in size and epic in scale. We go with that, but then of course at the same time we're picking games from designers that we want to work with, like of course Jeff Engelstein, our good friend there. Right?
Of course,
he's constantly got another game he wants to show me, and he's such a genius and a wonderful person that we do games with him just about every year as well. So that was a long answer to the fact that we pick games based on the way our partners want to work for that particular year, and then again, great games that we find that designers pitch to us. It's not as much scientific as you might think. Like, this is going to be a year where we do lighter games or something like that.
Cool. That's really, I like.
Thanks,
I like, you work with what you got, and you look for the great.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Stephen, how deep does your planning schedule, your sort of strategic outlook go? Is it that guy? Okay, where can he go? Okay, 6 months. That guy, or are you like you have a longer development strategy?
When a game comes up, it gets onto my sheet of games, and then we do try to pick a place for them. It's not that we have like a 3-year look or something like that, because I know there are companies, and and there's certainly many companies in the world that plan many years in advance to do things, and there are companies, certainly some of the larger ones in this industry, that plan years in advance. I can mention a couple. I mean, just like Yellow, I know they only release X number of games per year, and they do plan many years in advance. I know this because I have designers that work with them, and I find that to be very interesting, because
it seems like it would be constrictive.
It's very, and that's an interesting way of putting it. Like, they're a great company, but to me, it's like I'm very nimble. right? So literally when a game is pitched to me, and if that game is coming out soon, and soon is relative. I mean, soon could be 4 months, 6 months away is soon, right? And if that other partner is going to be coming out with this game later in the year, and I say, my God, this is a great game, I got to jump on board with this. As long as I have enough time to make sure I vet the game, I can do any translations I need, any rules, vetting, making sure the English is good. And I have enough lead time. 4 months is the absolute minimum based on a number of things on a timeline, including announcements to distributors. I can be nimble enough to say I'm adding that into my schedule. And for better or for worse, I added a lot of games like that sort of late-ish in the year to the chagrin of my sales agent. They were going bananas. I was adding more and more games. But the slate for the end of this year is pretty spectacular. And again, I put it up against anybody's set of releases for 2017.
That's exciting. We'll talk about those. Before we get to those, though, how did things from, now that you're into 2017, you launched a bunch of cool games. Obviously, last year you had some cool launches this summer. How did those go for you? Like what's worked out really well? What were some of the surprise hits in your library this year?
Well, I mean, the first thing we have to just mention anytime we talk about what was launched over the last year and into this year, of course, is Terraforming Mars. Yeah. And Terraforming Mars, is just astonishing. It's just killing it. I literally cannot print enough of the games, which is a good problem to have, but a problem nonetheless. It is rocketed to the top of Board Game Geek. It's number 7, closing on number 6 on Board Game Geek right now. Gamers cannot get enough of it and cannot play enough of it. Nobody can predict such a thing. I mean, in my opinion, I certainly could never pick. I knew it was a great game and I knew it was going to do very well, but to have it be such a smash hit, and we all like to say that use those words. Yeah, this was a smash hit. To have it be such a hit was unpredictable, and it certainly has changed. And already wonderful landscape for Stronghold Games. It has certainly changed the landscape in a material way. You can now, if you think about it, when you have something that's generating tremendous sales and popularity and buzz and everything, you can even take chances on other things that you say, I'm not sure I could do that game, but now I can do it because I've had all this, of course, other income from another great product. So Terraforming Mars, since its launch, and I think a year ago, I think I was on the show just about a year ago, right? I think more or less, give or take a few weeks. It had just come out or was just hitting the stores, and it was, we knew the buzz was great, but who knew what it was going to be like truly? Right. And that sort of set the tone for the rest of the year. And now we have 2 expansions coming out. One's already out called Hellas and Elysium. Yeah, I
got one at Gen Con. Looks awesome.
Yeah, very, very good. A double-sided game board where you can play now on 2 different areas of Mars. And then the new one coming out at Essen called Venus Next, where you're now going to have a sideboard for Venus and launch ships to Venus and put cities in the clouds and things like that. So truly has changed the landscape of the company for the better, and more great things are going to be happening with that IP.
That's awesome. Cool. I feel like you've made it if Broken Token makes an insert for your game. You're like in the house now.
They're a bunch of good guys
that
over there.
Insert for Terraforming Mars, by the way, is no joke. It looks awesome. What they came up with is fantastic.
They've been doing. A lot of companies are doing them. They're doing some really interesting work.
Yeah, cool stuff.
Oh,
there's like a whole cottage industry based on the inserts for this game. Which, yeah, like you said, you kind of like, wow, if there's that many people who are making inserts and loving the game, it must be, the game must be good. So
you're doing something right.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
That's awesome. So obviously that's the breakout hit. But what else in the stable kind of really did you hope all your kids are going to be great, but every once in a while one gets elected president. So what else? What else kind of in that wheelhouse there?
That's great. since then, the stuff that we've come through with this year that has been really, really great for us. Let's take Not Alone. This is a one versus many game, which is it's 2 to 7 players, and one player playing the creature, and the other players are playing these astronauts that were stranded on this distant, unexplored planet. When they crash land, they realize they are not alone, and then they are the hunted. So the creature is trying to find them, hunt them, assimilate them into the planet, while the hunted are trying to get away, evade, and wait until their rescue ship can get there. Beautiful, beautiful artwork, a very creepy, immersive theme, and very different, because you don't have a lot of these one versus many games, and certainly not ones that can be played in 45 minutes. Like Fury of Dracula is one of my all-time favorite games. It's a big game. It can go on for 2.5, 3 hours, things like that. Not Alone, quick, fast, card-based game. We also have not one but 2 expansions coming out within the next 6 months for Not Alone. First one is called Exploration, where you get a whole nother set of locations on the planet that you can now go and explore, and that's coming out at Essen. And then there's Sanctuary later on in 2018, probably during the first quarter, late in the first quarter of 2018. So that's a game that, again, is done very well for us. Came out very strong in late June, and is continuing to sell very well. And we will continue to expand that over time, because it's got such a rich theme and a rich way of playing that game. Many, many ways of bringing new content to the game.
Cool. Very cool.
The big game at Gen Con for me, which we did a number of different things for, was called Flamme Rouge. This funny name, Flamme Rouge. It's a bicycle racing game, a la like the Tour de France. But even if that theme doesn't speak to you like bicycle racing, Flamme Rouge is just a great racing game. So think of it as a racing game where you're playing a team of 2 bikers. One's called a roller, one's called a sprinter. And these are kind of there's technically French names for those, and roller and sprinter, but my French is not so good. So you're playing this team of bikers, which are very thematic to the way that they run in the Tour de France and bicycle races. One guy's more steady, kind of controls the pace, and then the one other guy, the sprinter, could do the big breakout toward the end. And you're on a track, and you're trying to work together and keep in the pack. With all the racers until you make that big breakout, and all the things that would happen in racing, including like in car racing, come into play. So you have like drafting happen. So if your pack is exactly 1 space away from the next pack, they all draft up, and then that pack takes a look, and if that pack's 1 space away, they draft up. So the game will proceed with this very thematic movement and flow of all of these little bicycle racers on the track, and then all of a sudden people will start making their big breaks. There's sort of a deck building or deck deconstruction in the game, because each rider has their own deck, and if they're in the lead in any given pack, they take an exhaustion card, so they have to add it to their deck because the wind is hitting them, so they take exhaustion. And then they have to try to shed those cards over time, because they're going to kind of be bad cards for you. They're going to only allow you to go 2 spaces versus being able to go like 9 spaces, the big. So Flamme Rouge was a huge release for us at Gen Con. It did very well there. Of course, in the show, we had this launch party. 2 years in a row, we've run a launch party at Gen Con for our big release. Last year, it was the Dragon and Flagon, which we had this really cool party where everyone's playing the game together on on these tables, and it's a big combat game, Jeff Engelstein and family game. And people were there in costumes. We had a lot of cosplayers there. And this year, for the bike racing game for Flamme Rouge, Stephen Buonocore was there in biking gear, and it was not quite as pretty, maybe you might say, but it was really a lot of fun. Again, we do that for the fans, and I don't take myself seriously, and I came in on a bicycle, and I was in my spandex biking gear, and it was a lot of fun to launch the game with such such a silly way, but everyone had a great time, and we gave away prizes and things like that. So
awesome.
big release for us.
That's fantastic. So it sounds like you're pleased with your launches, and you had a good Gen Con, and the games were very well received. That's great.
Yes, it really was. Oh, and I should mention that Flamme Rouge also has an expansion coming out called Peloton, which will enable the game not only to be played up to 6 players, it's 2 to 4, be up to 6, but you can also play with a variant to play it up to 12 players. Oh, nice. So that's going to be kind of cool. So Flamme Rouge and Flamme Rouge Peloton coming out soon in November.
Nice. Very cool.
Very cool.
Well, that's a great summer. So it sounds like it was very busy. Were there anything else you snuck out there, or are those the big ones?
Oh my God! I can literally go on forever, my friend. But
probably shouldn't go on forever then. But
especially when you can go to the website and find that stuff out. But what we want to hear about is what's on the horizon.
Well, before we go there, though, I do want to ask one more question.
Oh, Russ has got a question.
Russ has always got a question.
I do, because you've been now, Stephen. I remember when we first had you on the show, and Stronghold Games was a young glimmer in your eye, and you were doing things, and you were like, hey, we're going to do these kinds of things, and Survive came out, and Escape from Atlantis, and all these great, and just a succession of great games and great choices. And I wanted to kind of ask you, since then, what do you think has been the most sort of impactful way the industry's evolved post Kickstarter? Now, I know Kickstarter is probably the biggest change, but today, now, is where are things going now? Are we moving away from Kickstarter now? Is it equally important? is game length getting longer or shorter? Is there a price point trend going up or down? What do you feel like the big thing that's kind of you're starting to see across the board, and something that might be impacting kind of the things you decide to print?
That's a very big question.
Broad. So
that's a big
one of those topics.
Big broad question. So let me pick some pieces of it, and then we'll steer in this direction or that direction. But first of all, you mentioned Kickstarter, and is it changing? And I mean, Kickstarter is not going away anytime soon. I as you know, Stronghold Games does not do Kickstarters except for one we did. Not our thing. I'd like to put my name, reputation, and my money behind stuff that I do. So not my thing, but it's a very important thing, and more games will continue to come out on Kickstarter. It absolutely has its place in the industry, and there's a lot of people who just look at that, and that's fine. But where in general are things moving? I mean, gamers are expecting a lot. That goes without saying. Because of Kickstarter, in a lot of ways. Because of Kickstarter, gamers are expecting a lot in their box. So they're expecting bigger and more upgraded components. But at the same point, they're okay with even higher price points. In a lot of ways, bigger games or these games with nice components in them, which look good, are driving price points up, as well as other companies who are putting great things in their games. They're bigger and they're putting more money into the market, and they're driving price points up. So, if anything, prices are going up. Also a function of factories charging more. A lot of people print in China. I do some. I do mostly in Europe and now in the USA as well. And the labor costs are going up, especially in China. So the price points are definitely going to be going up. Game length is a very interesting thing that you touched upon. Game length has, in general, been going down, but I don't think that is an absolute trend. Not everything is always going to be of a small length. For instance, right, Terraforming Mars, we mentioned it a lot. It's certainly not a short game. All of your games are going to be solidly a 2-hour game at least, and so or more, and plenty of people play it longer and much more. So there's going to be plenty of games that are coming out at longer length still, but quite a few as the industry expands, and that's a good way of putting it. As the industry expands, you don't expect a new gamer to join the industry, to come in, and all of a sudden she's playing 3 and 4 hour games. No, they're probably going to start out playing the shorter games anyway. So they'll be in those 15 and 20 and 35 and 40 minute games.
Cool. Nice job. You captured all my questions in one reasonably concise answer.
In one very long-winded way of putting it.
Oh, it was excellent.
So now, Craig, you had a great
Now.
question.
Oh, I had a great question. I was just ahead of my time, as always. Steven, what's coming down the pike?
There is so much coming down the pike that it would take 3 shows to talk about it. But so how do we encapsulate this? I mean, so we have a big catalog right now, right? Stronghold Games has, as you mentioned, has got such a large, diverse catalog, and we're growing so fast, and we have our partners that we keep adding on. So one of the things that we're doing to support, and that's the first thing I want to talk about, the things we're going to do to support the sort of the current catalog, the older catalog, the evolving catalog would be expansions. And we have a number of expansions for games that we either have done a little while ago or just recently done, and immediately we realized the greatness of the game, so we're going to expand it. So let's start with, like, we have Dark Moon Shadow Corporation. This is the expansion for our game that came out 2-3 years ago, Dark Moon. Now it's a 3 to 7 player game where the designer took the Battlestar Galactica concept where we don't know who is on our side, right? We're all in Battlestar Galactica where you could be a Cylon. Here you could be an infected player or you could be human, and you have your hidden identity, and you're attempting to figure out via dice play who is on your team and who's not on your team. We have now ratcheted up the entire insanity of the game and the hidden traitor betrayal factor in the game. You now have a new role called the Company Man, sort of like the Paul Reiser role in Alien, right? And that so you have a new role with new things you can do. You have a shuttle that shows up that you can put people on the shuttle to get them off. So it's a new end game condition. So we basically took the ideas that we had in that game and just ratcheted everything up. So that's Dark Moon Shadow Corporation, and that's going to be, by the time this episode releases, that is going to be coming out. Its street dates on October 4th. So fans of that game, it's all there for you. Cool. I already mentioned Flamme Rouge Peloton, right? It takes Flamme Rouge, the bike racing game, and it goes up to now 12 players if you want, or just up to 6 players with the base rules. It's going to be
a lot of guys in Lycra.
Please do not put that in my mind.
That's more Lycra than any other game.
Yes.
Right. There's your tag. You can have that for free. Oh, there you go.
Right.
I love it. Flamme Rouge Peloton now with more spandex.
100% more spandex. Right.
Yeah. You can have that one for free.
I can have that for free, Craig?
Oh,
sure?
Yeah.
No royalties in that?
No, none at all.
What a guy. What a guy.
They're fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to come.
My brain is full. My brain is full.
Lie around, we throw those things out there, yes.
I'm going to come to you for all my slogans for all my games. How's that?
Oh, excellent.
All right. I also mentioned Not Alone Exploration, the expansion for Not Alone. So that's going. Last year at this time, at Gen Con last year, we released a game called The Pursuit of Happiness, where it's a game that you're going to live the life you always wanted to. A very thematic Euro with really cute artwork, where you're creating your life in a game, or not yours, but a fantasy life, a life that where you have gone and got a higher education, and then maybe excelled in a career, and then maybe you had a family, maybe you had 2 relationships. You have all these things going on that you can have in Pursuit of Happiness, and now we have the community expansion, Pursuit of Happiness Community, where you can determine how you have done in the community. So you have a separate set of cards called your community deck, and that sits next to the main board, and you'll be getting scored in the way that you have interacted and the things you've done for your community. That's coming out later this year. We have, the Fabled Fruit. This was a very big release from last year. Now, our 3rd printing on this game, a game that I was unsure that people would take to, and they loved it. For those who don't know about Fabled Fruit, it is what we're calling a Fable game. We created this this trademark, the Fable game, and it's a game that evolves over time, where the game system starts in one basic state, and then over time, different things happen, different things change. So it sounds a little bit like Legacy, yet it's not, because nothing ever is like ripped up or marked. Right, no permanent changes. You can reset the game from the beginning at any time, or you can set it at any point in the middle. It's that kind of thing. So we're coming out with Fable Fruit, the Limes expansion. Why limes do we need in Fable Fruit? Because A, it's green, and 2F Spieler, that's Friedman Freeze's company, they are obsessed with green. He has green hair. Their company colors are green. He's crazy. So he came out with the Limes expansion, more locations in the game, and we have the best fruit of all, limes. We have the next Terraforming Mars expansion I mentioned, Venus Next. We talked about that already, coming out later this year. Going to be huge for us, obviously, in Essen. And I have one more expansion, but I'll get to that expansion when I talk about the base game that we're going to be doing. So I might as well.
I heard a rumor.
You heard a rumor?
You got a new game coming out, a new base game
coming out. A new one? One new one? How about many?
Right. Okay, fine. Many new ones.
So what we have on the horizon here is the first one that I'll mention is it's called Nations: The Dice Game. Now, in Nations, the Dice Game was released by a small company, you might have heard of them, called Asmodee, about 5 years ago. They weren't the primary publisher. It was Lautapellet out in Finland, the primary publisher, and Asmodee did it in a number of other languages, and they distributed it, I believe, in the U.S. in English. Well, the licenses revert after a certain amount of time, and Lautapellet is now our very, very close strategic partner. So we picked up the license for Nations: The Dice Game, which is a civilization building game. So it's not a dice game like Zombie Dice. You roll dice, you try to make sets. It's a very big game that has dice as its basic mechanism for doing the set collection and taking your actions and things like that. So not only do we pick up that license, and we're coming out with that very early in November, we also are coming out with its first expansion called Nations: The Dice Game Unrest. More dice in the game, more different dice. These are all custom dice, by the way, in the game. There's lots of content in this game, lots of components, many different types of custom dice, and now we have Unrest dice, where if you don't treat your civilization well, of course, the unrest starts, and that will come to hurt you if you don't treat your people well. So that was sort of our first big-ish release as we're coming into the new season. But the big one that I think we really want to talk about, which hopefully we're going to have a nice contest around, right?
Yes, exactly.
And some giveaways around, right? Yes.
Well, we hope so, as we've already said.
Because we already mentioned it in the first segment.
Exactly.
I can't even go into this time warp stuff with you guys. All right. So
it's okay. We're here to pilot you through the eddies.
Sure, any amateur podcast, Stephen, can record sequentially in order. I mean, that doesn't take any kind of skill whatsoever.
Chronological order is for noobs.
Right. But it takes a certain kind of talent to record, in any kind of random order you see fit. I mean, why follow?
Why limit yourself?
Yeah, we reward those who color outside the line, Stephen. That's
right.
Show this.
That's right.
Obviously, I'm not talented enough to understand how you guys work this whole thing, but that's okay.
This new game you got is definitely outside the lines.
There you go.
I know
Perfect.
a little bit about it because you talked about it earlier in the show. But
that's right.
For those who may have missed that and skipped right to the Stronghold game bit, because you all know you love to hear from you. So what is the new hotness here?
I love working with you guys. I really do. One of the new hotnesses that we're coming out with for the fall is called Space Freaks. Now,
Space Freaks, they're super freaky.
I just want this game now, Steven. So
now I really think I specifically wanted to do everything around the contest and around the promotion with you guys on this particular game, and you guys are getting this game like immediately, and you'll be the first people to have it. We talked about that offline already.
But
great power comes great responsibility.
I have to say, when you see this box, well, just describe it, Steven, because this game is like is built for me and my kids. I mean, there's just everything about this game just screams me. But go ahead.
So this is how the game was pitched to me again by I missed the fifth time I think I mentioned Lautapellet in Finland, a great new partner for us. When they pitched me this game, they're telling me about this game, and they're like, this is a tactical combat game where you create your space freaks in the arena of annihilation, where you choose the different heads for your space freaks, the arms, the legs, the body, and all of those pieces, and they all look weird, of course, because you're literally taking you could have a mechanical claw on one side, a tentacle on the other side, some kind of tracks for your legs, and this bulbous head, and each one of those pieces is going to give you different powers and different stats and combat ratings and defenses. So you create your space freak, and you're going to be sending them out, several of these guys, out in combat against other players, and to do other things. There's missions that the arena master will send you, missions to go on, and to different achievements that you can get, to score points and things like that. And I'm like, oh, this is great. This is so cool. And I'm playing the game. I'm like, this is amazing. And then he shows me the artwork for the box. And this is what the box is going to look like. And he shows me because I'm like, it's pink. And I'm like, yeah, isn't that going to stand out on the shelf? I'm like, yeah, that's, yeah.
That's one way to put it.
But it's pink. And I literally, but after you look at it a while, I'm like, you know what? This really looks
but it works,
more.
Right?
It so works. It is so ridiculously different than any box art or any box color, certainly.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of a retro style. I think Russ, you mentioned that. Kind of a little like a retro style, because this is kind of like this arena combat.
Yeah, it's got that Flash Gordon kind of thing going on there a little bit, and. And I think the pink really works with that. I don't know why, because you're right. It's not like a shot of a planet with an orange sky. No, it's definitely pink. There's no doubt about the fact that we are looking at a pink situation here.
You're looking at a pink game. So so a few years ago, companies started coming out with white game boxes. Concept did it first, and we even did it with the Pursuit of Happiness. It's a white box with some really colorful, almost like red, white, and blue, a very American kind of looking things. So white was the big color for a box, and now I think pink is the new white.
You're gonna start setting a new trend.
When in 2018 every game that comes out is pink, you can thank Buonocore for that.
That's right.
It's Steven's fault. Right there.
Shades of pink, and yes. Somebody recently said that maybe it's going to appeal to the LB.
Yeah, that was a nice try. That was a very nice try.
No, it didn't work.
Good effort.
Yeah.
Well, I think that this. I think it'll definitely. I think it'll appeal to everyone. But so you build your little fighter, your space freak, right?
You build your fighters, right?
Is your freak always a robot, or can it be bio? Can it be
absolutely.
It can be like anything, right?
Yes, anything. I mean, you get a set of these cards that you can pick from, to pick its head, to pick its different arms, to pick its leg, to pick its body, and then from that you create, and all of your freaks then will have these characteristics. So they'll all go out together, and they'll go out there to fight the other freaks that are on the board. That's sort of the basis of it, and you're going to get points based on destroying the other freaks on the board and doing King of the Hill kind of stuff and going on missions and things like that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it comes
very cool.
And it's not just cards, though, right? There's little plastic bits and everything, right? In this game.
There's plastic freaks in the game, right? Each player gets a little set of freaks, and then there's other aliens that could show up on the board, and there are.
This is my kind of. And coming out in November, just in time for my birthday. I mean, this game was made for me, Stephen. I can't wait.
That's right. I did this for you. I'm sending you this for your birthday.
I am so excited.
Oh, there you go.
So can't wait to try this out. And again, I am really excited. Thank you so much, Stephen, for letting us give one away here.
No problem.
So remember, if you skipped ahead to this segment, go back to the beginning of the show to learn all about the contest. So
there you go.
So, Stephen, thanks for coming on and giving us all the details. We'll be back in a bit with more with Stephen. But right now, we're going to take a quick break and hear from Total Fangirl.
Yay! Woo!
This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, Total Fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire. Hey everyone, this is Nicole, your Total Fangirl. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicole Wakelin and check out my blog, TotalFangirl.com. Our shout out is to all of our wonderful supporters over at Patreon. Head to patreon.com/the D6 Generation and you too can support the show. So there were 2 TV shows coming out that I was excited and nervous about, and they were both Star Trek themed. One is actually Star Trek. So Star Trek Discovery and The Orville. The Orville was more of a parody, and I was really skeptical about it because although the previews looked really funny, I couldn't see how they were going to sustain a weekly show. Like it was almost as if seemed as though it would be funny for just a little skit, but that it wouldn't work if you try to do it over and over every week. And then there was Discovery, which seemed more exciting because it was actually Star Trek, and we haven't had a Star Trek TV show in a long time, and I was really excited for both of them. So now I've had a chance to watch a couple episodes of each, and I'm finding myself leaning in exactly the opposite direction from what I expected. Discovery, although good, isn't as engaging. Like somehow I'm not really drawn into the characters that the show is presenting, and I've watched the first 2 episodes, I guess the 2-part sort of season premiere, and I'm curious. I'll keep watching. I want to know what's going to happen. And yeah, it's Star Trek, so it's always good to see that. And I'm interested to see where it would go, but it didn't draw me in the way I hoped. It falls a little flat. And I also, the Klingons, the thing that drove me nuts was that when the Klingons were talking, in other series or other Star Treks, they've often will show you like a couple of words the Klingons will speak in their language and they'll subtitle it. But then the Klingons start speaking English. So you're not listening to an entire long drawn out thing where you're trying to read the subtitles and then follow what's going on the screen. But this one feels the need to have everything in Klingon, spoken in Klingon, and they were subtitles. And I found it really distracting. Like it completely pulled me out of what was going on to try and watch what was happening and read that. Did not like that at all. I don't know how much the Klingons play into future episodes, but it drove me nuts in the first 2. On the other hand, the Orville, which is funny, is actually more interesting. The characters are more interesting. What's happening is more interesting. And although there's silly references to things that are sort of pop culture and of the moment to us right now, and it lets them, speak in a more normal kind of, 2017 sort of way, they get away with that because it's a parody, but the stories are actually better and the characters are a little more interesting. Now, I know some people haven't been liking it because they for a variety of reasons, but I actually really liked it. I think it's fun. And even like the intro to the show, the intro to the Orville looks like it was lifted right out of one of the Star Trek series, where the intro to Star Trek Discovery, although really kind of cool, doesn't. It looks like something completely different. So I think the Orville did a really good job parodying Star Trek, but also in a funny way, but also in a sincere way. Some of those episodes are really good. Some of the little moral dilemmas are really good, again, right out of Star Trek. So although I thought the Orville was going to be something I didn't end up liking, I really like it. And although Star Trek Discovery was something I was super looking forward to, now I'm feeling a little bit disappointed. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Send me an email. Let me know. I'd love to know what you think of the new actual Star Trek and the almost Star Trek.
Hey, welcome back. And now it's time for us to talk about vacations because winter's right around the corner, and that's when you really think the most about getting away. And of course, if you're thinking about vacations and you're a geek, there's only one group that you should think about going on vacation with, and that's Geek Nation Tours.
Oh, exactly right.
That was a toss.
It was a great toss. And Geek Nation Tours is my favorite way to travel around. I cannot believe the amazing things and features that Terrace and the crew does for these events. Like you think about going to like Gen Con or any other conventions like Adepticon or Spiel. They just have an amazing venue set up. But the best part about these tours is you're going with a bunch of people like-minded like yourself. They're all geeks. They're all gamers. You're going to step onto that bus or that airplane or into that convention with a bunch of folks, and they're all going to be the same interests, same passions, and you're going to be right at home. It's not going to be like talking about sports or any of that kind of stuff. So it's a fantastic. You can. Or if you need to talk about sports, you could talk about sports, but you won't because you'll be talking about gaming. That's the best part.
That's true.
And your favorite nerddom. And the best part about this is, again, they go in. Not only can you get a great tour to one of the great conventions you want to go to, but these ones I always find really fascinating, Craig. The ones where Terrace takes you out to places that you can see the geeky locations where things were filmed. Like the Got Dragons tour, where you can see locations for Game of Thrones filming, or the Lord of the Rings tour in New Zealand.
And they're all themed, too. So you're not just going to these locations. He's got guests that will go with you. Right. You're going to play games that are themed to these places. It's really, it's a full spectrum, well-rounded experience. It's just awesome. The times that we've been able to participate in Chicago and Indianapolis, it's just really amazing to see how much work and preparation goes into your vacation that you don't have to worry about. And he's going to get you into places you'd never be able to get into, talking to people you'd never be able to talk to. It's just really great all the way around.
And it can be geeky things like TV shows, like the Who's Your Doctor tour, where you actually go see spots where Doctor Who's been filmed in Scotland and Wales. Or it could be something more historical, like the Geek Nation tours, the battlefields of the Civil War, where you get to go see all those battlefields down in here in the USA and visit them and really learn, do all kinds of geeky visits while you're down there. So it can be basically, it doesn't matter. If you're a geek and you're passionate about something, Geek Nation Tours has it for you. So head on over to geeknationtours.com.
Yee!
You're listening to the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com. More fun than Merchant of Venus. Wait, what?
Who writes these?
Hey everyone, welcome back. And now, this is we did this once a long time ago, and I'd kind of forgotten about this until recently, because I was playing around online with a new tool I found for my role-playing games. And so way back, if you turn the Wayback Machine way back to 2013.
That's quite a Wayback Machine.
Which is pretty far back. We had Owen on the show, and I was flipping through RPG books, and Craig and Owen were just sort of like making characters up on the fly. And I thought, well, who else do I know who's a character? And I thought, well, Stephen Buonocore clearly is a character. I think we'd all agree with that, right, Craig? I think that's a given, right, Stephen? So
yes, thank you very much.
We thought this would be great. I've seen you, on Dice Tower Live. You're a really witty guy, so I figured this is no problem. And I think what's fun about this is kind of the idea is sort of like, whose character is it anyway? So I'm thinking the premise here is I've got all these RPG books in front of me, and I've also got this new toy I'm going to tell you guys about in a second. And I figured we give each player here, so Craig and Steven, we each have a few keywords that they can use to define their character, right? So it's kind of like just a couple keywords, maybe paladin or noble or whatever, and then sort of a circumstance they're in, and they can start to dialogue with each other. But first we're going to do the keywords for them to define themselves, and then I will throw in a random situation that they will have to work through, right? And we'll do it for a few minute or two, right? So not very long. Making sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong, Stephen? It's fine. And I think the point here is really to show people how easy it is to create a character in a role-playing game with not a lot. You don't need to spend like hours and hours thinking about your character. A few good ideas. And this came from, there's a couple different RPGs out now that just throw a few words at you. And all of a sudden, these simple ideas, like you pick a background, maybe you pick a couple weaknesses, a couple strengths, and all of a sudden you've built a really awesome character with just a few things, little germs of ideas to get started, right? So we'll see if we end up with a cool character here this way as well. Are you guys ready for your first characters here?
Oh my God!
I'm gonna give you some keywords here to start thinking. And then,
Craig, you don't sound enthused, Craig. I'm scared.
No, I'm good. I'm all in.
Is it making sense?
Yes. No.
Yes.
But that's
okay.
Oh, totally.
Okay.
I think
ready?
This is going to be fantastic.
I can't wait.
So Craig, your class, right?
Yes. Okay.
Is the Gluttony Monk of Ruin.
Okay.
Gluttony Monk of Ruin. And Stephen, your class is the Neurobard of Truth.
The what bard? What?
Neurobard.
Neuro.
Yes. Very good. Neurobard of Truth.
That's it?
The Gluttony Monk of Ruin and the Neurobard of Truth.
That's all?
So
that's all we get?
Would you like more? I can give you more.
No. No, my friend, Neurobard, come over here and have a dinner with me, my friend. Look, giant turkey legs. Don't worry about that brain of yours. I've got lots of brain food over here.
But wait, sir. Let me think about this for a moment. Let me
no
sing you a
need
song.
to think, Stephen.
A song
need to
of
think at all. Oh no, you'll be singing. Trust me, you'll be singing. Have you ever heard the tune "Beans, Beans, the Musical Fruit"?
Possibly, but a better one might be about the next adventure that you and I must go on to save the royal family from the ruin of the necro dragon that's out there.
No, Stephen. There's no need to go on an adventure. Look, we can just sit here and eat. And then not worry about anything else, my friend.
Now, Craig,
what?
In this debate, you are moderately informed about your issues, but you get all your opinions from your spouse.
Oh, well, I'll tell you, Stephen, with my wife's cooking, you have no idea.
Stephen, you are not informed at all about this issue, and you have no strong opinion, but your source of your opinion comes from your political friends.
Ah, well, Steve, so here's what's happening, really. You want to go save some queen or something from some sort of necro-lich dragon thing, and I'm telling you that my wife's cooking is quite good right here, and what do we call this, dinner? No, lupper? I'm not sure exactly what we would call it, what time of day it is here, but I'm telling you, my friend, look at all this food, look at this belly that I've got. You think I came upon this by accident? No, I came by this belly honestly, my friend. You won't have to look at you everything you do is with your brain, so you don't have to walk anywhere anyway. What do you care? Just sit and slowly lose yourself and let yourself sink into ruin.
Where's my button on my chair? Anyway,
you don't have a button. Nicely done, gentlemen. I'm going to give 10 points to Craig and 5 points to Steven, mostly for just volume.
Very good.
And much like Whose Line Is Anyway, of course, the
points are very random.
The points don't matter exactly.
Right. At all.
Yeah.
So
sorry, Stephen. I felt like that was getting a little aggressive towards the end.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay.
Okay.
Nice. So that was our first mashup. So what do you think, Stephen? You feeling your oats here on this? You feeling okay?
Oh yes. I will keep up with this maniac
we'll let
on the
you
other
go
end.
First next time. Okay.
Oh my God.
Now, okay, here we go. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to give you another. Let's see, another nice character option here. Let me go here real quick with my.
What is a gluttony monk of ruin, by the way?
Oh,
where did that come from?
These are just keywords. These are keywords. Okay, so
keywords from what, though? I mean, we can actually make this segment somewhat useful for people if we also tell them where some of this stuff's coming from.
Let me tell you where I'm getting it from. So there is a most fantastical website, okay, that I found, great for giving you ideas. It is called chaoticshiny.com. So you go to chaotic, like CHAOTI.
Oh, so we don't know. You don't know what system these
No. But
things
this is what's brilliant about this website, though. It's good for any system. So, for example, if you wanted to pick, let's try this one. Let's say we wanted to come up with an attitude, okay? So you on the left-hand side, there's all these different random things. So I've clicked on attitude. So, Craig.
Yes.
Your attitude is you
are... Is this for real?
Yes. This is for your next character. You're extremely admiring towards the other person, and it will be difficult to persuade you otherwise about it. And Stephen, you are highly indifferent towards the other person, and you're hiding your feelings. And you're fairly likely to act on that, right? And I can now give you. There's also a cool button here called Class Mashup, and I can click that. And now, Craig, your class is the Pyro Knight of Despair.
Huh.
And Stephen, you are the Exo Rogue of Wrath and Corruption.
Exo Rogue of Wrath
and Corruption.
And
Stephen,
corruption. It sounds like me.
You get to go first as the Exo Rogue Wrath of Corruption, who is highly indifferent to the current situation.
Indifferent
to me.
To you.
Correct, yes.
Who is the extremely admiring to the person. Oh,
yes.
Okay.
And he's a Pyro Knight of Despair.
Right.
So I feel like I've been typecast now.
It's random.
So, I must go on this quest to remove the morals of the society, corrupt them, bring my wrath against them. Who will I do this with? I care not about others. I will do this myself.
Hi, Steven. How are you? I've got to tell you.
Get away.
No one else listens to me. I mean, sure, I shoot fire out of my hands accidentally at all times. But seriously, like, no one understands me like you do. I'm sorry about your hat.
I do not need you, and I will go on this alone.
Well, you totally don't. You totally don't need me. Because you're so good. You're so cool. And you're like exo wrath. Like, I don't even know what exo wrath means. That's how dumb I am. But you are just so cool. And I'm sorry about your bag of holding.
Maybe I can use this fool with me while I don't particularly like you. I think maybe your sycophanticness might help in corrupting others as long as you keep feeding my ego.
Well, I mean, to be honest, one of the things I like best about you is your honesty and how you just like don't try to hide your feelings. But on the other hand, I do have to question a little bit your sycophanticness. You lost me there, but oh, sorry about your shoes.
Excellent. I'm going to give 20 points to Steven for his accent in that one.
That was an excellent accent. It was an excellent accent.
Craig for the fire effects.
I have no idea what that accent was, but
that was
awesome. So
I feel like I'm cheating using the effect box, but I'm going to keep doing it anyway. I'm going to fit somehow everything we do will have some kind of effect.
Oh, that's great.
So what's kind of cool is, so what's also cool about this is there is sort of this thing called the class mashup, which I've been using, which gives us these sort of random keywords to push together. But there's also a motto generator. So now I'm going to give you each a random motto. All right?
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
So ready? So Steven, your motto is, I'm going to push a couple till we get a good one. All right, here we go. All right, good. So Craig, your motto is worthiness, purity, and ingenuity. And Steven, your motto is zeal and morality.
Oh my God.
And morality. Now, in addition, I'll give you some more to work with there. Now, what's kind of cool about this is I was doing the Clash Master, but they also actually have and this is from 4E, but it gives you a D&D actually quick rolled up character. And what I like about it is it gives you an annoyed by and a sucker for. So, Craig, you are a, let's see. You are a brutal scoundrel, an elf rogue brutal scoundrel. You are annoyed by wild animals of any sort. And you are a sucker for lost causes. And your favorite virtue is that you're chaste.
Wait. I'm annoyed by wild animals.
Yes.
I'm a sucker for lost causes.
Yes.
And I'm proud that I'm chaste.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. So
that's a lot. That's a lot to work in there.
You can pick any combination of these things. We'll drop. We're getting.
I'll hit them all.
Okay.
Without a doubt, we're gonna get all of this crap in there.
Now, Steven, ready?
Yeah.
You're a half elf paladin.
I'm a half elf paladin. Very good. That works.
You're annoyed by the adoration of the masses. So you're half elf paladin who hates being adored. But you're a sucker for cute and fuzzy things.
And that's not a good.
Your favorite virtue is temperance.
Wait. I'm sucker by who? What?
Cute and fuzzy things.
Sucker for cute and fuzzy things.
Yeah. You're female also. Female half elf paladin. And your favorite virtue is your temperance.
Oh, so that's not. I'm not proud that I'm chaste. My favorite virtue is that I'm chaste.
Your favorite virtue is chaste.
Is chastity.
In general,
chastity, not my chastity.
No.
Okay.
Anyone's chastity.
I like my temperance. What is it about the temperance?
Yes.
excited for temperance.
You are. Yeah, you're impressed by temperance.
Who wouldn't be?
All things in moderation. Well, you are a paladin, so.
Of course, this is very paladin-like, all of this.
So, Craig, it's your turn to start.
Wow.
Oh, it's my turn to start.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, my God.
Okay. Let's see. Come, Sir Stephen. Let's go and do you see that castle over there with the gate down and the men on the parapets? And it looks to me like they're armed with oh, damn! Seriously, there's like animals just walking up and down the whole area. It's ridiculous.
Are they cute?
On the other.
Are they
No,
cute and fuzzy?
No, they're just downright annoying. But you know what? I think we should charge that castle wall anyway. That's what I think, because worthiness, purity, and ingenuity in getting around those first two. That's what I say.
Well, Craig, as I am the incarnation of the great and powerful God of love, I think, I believe that my morality and my zeal and love of life will take us on this. What's that?
Interesting.
Will take us on this quest. However, I must insist that none of the masses see us do this. I do not need that. I do not want that. That is below me to have that.
Okay.
But I want cute and fuzzy things. I need that. At all times.
Listen, loser. I mean,
what?
Sir Stephen.
Yes.
Let's go. Seriously, there's almost no way we could take that castle, but just imagine the accolades, or, I'll take them. You don't have to. And I can't wait to get in there, because my favorite virtue is chastity, because you got to get around it, right? And, of course, worthiness, purity, and ingenuity in getting around the first two.
Chastity, you say? But you're so cute, and I was thinking of something later for us. After.
No offense, Sir Stephen, but you are not my type. On the other hand, I think that those wild animals would just love you, and I'd love to hook you up with those wild animals later after we take that castle.
I would.
And I'm not sure where that ended in the end there, where we're heading for some form of... That was excellent, gentlemen. 20 points to Craig for the ending, and 50 points to Stephen for the innuendo.
Oh, this is so unfair. There was no innuendo.
There was plenty of innuendo.
Oh, there was
Dice Tower Network.
There was no innuendo. Innuendo indicates some sort of subtlety.
This is not subtle at all.
Oh, no, it's not subtle. So,
I'm sweating.
Well, you know.
That's awesome. You guys are doing
My
great.
elf rogue brutal scoundrel has that effect on half-elf.
This is crazy.
So you can get, so it's pretty cool. Then we also can get superstitions out of this generator.
Okay.
So we can give those as well. So first of all, let's see, I'm going to try to find a good one here that works. So here we go. So Craig, your superstition is that you should always sign a contract at camp at the end of the journey.
At the end of the journey?
Yes, at the end of the journey. And Stephen, your superstition is never fight near a patch of oleanders on the equinox if you don't invoke the spirit of... I don't know how you work with that, but there you have it. Now, but also I'll give you another class matchup here to give you a little work.
Near the
let's do
equinox.
Another mashup here. Yeah, here we go.
I don't know what the hell you just said.
So Craig,
no, without evoking.
Right, without evoking. I'm giving you a little Klingon there, Stephen. So you know it's called back to this. Right.
Evoking. Okay.
Okay. So Craig, I'm back to the random mashups here. This is what's cool about this is you also have random attitudes and everything else. So if you're a DM and you're working with NPCs, you can just click some buttons here and get some interesting, fun ideas. So Craig,
I just like that this website has been writing and gaming generators since 2346.
Well, it's
That's
funny.
Very
Every time you do a new generation, the year it picks it is random.
Oh, really?
Which is pretty funny. So Craig, your class is Acro Barbarian.
Acro Barbarian.
Acro Barbarian.
Oh.
Are you ready, Stephen, for yours?
No.
Your class, you are a Lynx assassin of passion and dissent.
Lynx?
Lynx, like the animal. Lynx
like
assassin.
The cat?
Yeah, like the cat. So I'm guessing in this world, lynxes are people.
I'm sort of like, okay, so I'm like a cat person.
Yeah. And you're
Link's
an assassin of passion and dissent.
Of passion and dissent?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, of course. That makes
sense.
sense.
You own this. This is you. You own this. All right. Well, Stephen, why don't you start this round with your assassin of passion, Links?
I'm nervous.
Link's assassin of passion. Okay, all right. Craig, I have a contract that I must go fulfill to assassinate someone.
Flip.
So will you accompany me on this mission?
Grr, flip. Double flip, double gainer, flip.
Will you accompany me? Can you say anything else to help me here? However,
grunt, flip, grunt, flip.
We must ensure that we do not do this near the equinox without evoking
backflip, pirouette, flip, grr.
Who's, of course, the Klingon god of something.
All right, we'll call that one there. Well done. Stephen, you get 40 points for the purr, and Craig, you get 10 points for taking the cheap way out on the flipping. Well done, sir.
I'm sensing a theme.
All right, so one more. We'll do the motive generator here. So I think the motive one is pretty interesting, too. So what I like about this one is you click the word motive, you click random, and it's going to give you random motives for great for NPCs or a game like this. So, Stephen, your motive, are you ready?
Never, but go ahead.
You're motivated by mild boredom, also bloodlust, also confused loneliness, and mild paranoia.
Mild boredom, bloodlust, mild bloodlust. What else?
Yeah. Confused loneliness.
Confused loneliness.
And mild paranoia. This is a combination that's not often found in people. So it'll give you a good kind of...
I think you should immediately seek help. That's what I think.
Craig, yes. You are motivated by insanity.
Oh, well, that's clear.
And a deep-seated self-hatred. And this stems from a recent event in your life. Is that enough, or would you like some more?
Oh, no, I'm good. Please don't add any more.
No, I'm pretty good here.
I'm looking at the mess Steven's got to deal with. I'm good, thank you.
All right, Craig, you can start since yours is a little easier than Steven's there. Give him some room.
Are we a class? No class. We're classless.
Would you like a class? I can give you.
No, it gives us a framework.
All right, here's your class.
Otherwise, it just my motives sound like me right now. I don't know.
Steven, Craig, you're the cyber champion.
How come you keep saying every one of these? You say, okay, Steven, you're gonna be. Okay, Craig is gonna be I get a sense I'm getting set up here.
I'm gonna re-roll, and the first one is yours, Craig.
Wait a second. Are you saying that he's putting it somehow manipulating the scenario?
I think he's saving the good ones for you. That's what I think.
No,
I'm gonna call a foul.
So
the GM is tilting this whole thing in your favor. That's
So tell me, the Link's assassin was an easy one, or the female Hellfell paladin, or the Exo Rogue. Yeah, tell me what an Exo Rogue Wrath of Corruption is.
Oh, every one of those was a softball.
Listen, I call foul.
Steven, look at the scoreboard. It speaks for itself.
All right.
This was a pretty good idea.
All right, here we go. All right, so
I'm still not sold.
I'm going to roll again, and the first one's yours, Craig. Ready? Here we go.
You better give me.
You are the Hydro Summoner of Dreams, Craig.
Well, that's just true.
Of course.
And Steven, you are the Bionic Warlock Sorcerer.
Damn it! I had something for that one.
Warlock Sorcerer.
Warlock Sorcerer. Yeah, multi-class. Bionic multi-class.
Yes, by multi-class.
Everybody knows if you're going to be Bionic, you might as well be multi-class.
Bionic Warlord Sorcerer.
Right.
Mild boredom below. Okay, yeah, I got it. I got my motivation.
Your earlier stuff here. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
All right. So
that's my turn to go first?
Yeah, your turn, Craig.
Yes.
Okay. I apologize ahead of time to any advocates of the of any sort of issues of mental health.
Oh dear.
Okay. Nice disclaimer.
I'm going cartoon. Right. Think of this as cartoon. Okay. Me. Okay. Stephen, please just come with me, and I'm going to summon some dreams for you. And then I think we should just go down into that dungeon because I think it looks very dangerous. And if I die down there, that'll just be great. And I'll remember the dreams. And
I'm a little nervous. Paranoia is striking me here, but I have been bored, and it's kind of good to really get out my bloodlust. And yes, maybe
it's interesting you say that,
kill
Stephen,
some people.
It's only paranoia if they're really out to get me.
I'm a little confused and lonely, and I kind of relish it a little bit, but you're really going to kill people
Well, I'm
in that
going
dungeon.
slightly mad. I'm going slightly mad. It's finally happened. It's finally happened. Oh, yes.
I think the two of us could have a great time in this dungeon killing things.
It looks very dangerous. No, you kill things.
I kill.
And I will go down, and I will die as the miserable wretch I am.
I kill you.
Being the ridiculous freak who tried his best to lead an undead army yesterday and just had all of those dead people die again.
The world is better without you. I kill you.
I agree.
I kill you.
I agree. Here.
I kill you.
Let me bare my breast, and you guys just stab right there.
Okay, I kill you. I kill you. I kill you.
Good scene. And Craig, you get 50 points for the sound effects, and Steven, you get 30 points for attempted assassination.
I noticed the points still work out in his favor.
You got 50. What are you talking about?
I have no idea.
I'm doing some math in my head, friend.
Nobody keeps score at these things.
Keep scoring these things.
Oh, somebody does.
Oh, we're gamers. We must keep score.
Somebody keeps score all the time.
Oh, somebody out there is definitely doing it.
That's awesome. So, gentlemen, thank you for participating in this crazy event. I really appreciate you being such good sports here.
Steven, you'll have to come back 4 years from now when we do it again.
That's right. We do it once every 4 years, whether it's time or not. Really.
I have no idea whatsoever if that was entertaining enough for the listeners, but I just had a great time. So thank you for having me here to do this. This is awesome.
We loved having you on, Stephen. So if folks want to find out more about you or Stronghold Games, the new hotness from Stronghold Games, where should they go on the internet to learn more?
Where should they? Well, of course, follow us on Twitter. We're very active out there. We are at Stronghold Games. We have a Facebook page /Stronghold Games. And, of course, our website is strongholdgames.com, where right now we have opened up the pre-orders for all of our games that are releasing this year into the beginning of 2018. So if you want your copy of Space Freaks, or you want a copy of Noria or Indian Summer or the many expansions we're releasing, you can pre-order them now. We guarantee that you will get it with free shipping within the U.S., discounted in the rest of North America, and you'll get it before the rest of the masses get it. That's sort of our guarantee with the whole thing. Guys, thank you so much for having me on. It's been great. I love it.
Fun.
Well,
love this show.
Thanks for the great prizes for our listeners. We appreciate it. And if anyone's interested in that random idea generator for RPGs, again, that's chaoticshiny.com. And don't think it's all silly. There's actually some whole sections in there that generate like backgrounds for civilizations, whole new alphabets, languages, magic spells, you name it. So if you're looking for a cool idea or just a quick idea in your next RPG, check it out.
This is brought to you by all of our fine friends over at Patreon. These are the men and the women, the boys and the girls, the dogs and the kitty cats that help us keep this show rolling from one mediocre moment to the next. And today I'd like to thank David Collins, Alex Coombs, Ken Crouch, Steve Cunyo, and Jeremy Danielson. Thank you, boys and girls and people of all ages. Thank you. Do you ever notice how filled with things to fear the world can be? Or at least can seem sometimes? And then there's all the real things, really. There's all the things you could really be worried about. And then there's all the gaming things you could be worried about. Lately, I have found myself being most afraid that I'm trying something really hard, but I'm trying it the wrong way, so it's not going to matter that I put all that effort into it. For instance, very brief example, we just reseeded our entire lawn. And our lawn, for those of you who have been listening for a long time would know, is really, really big. We have a very, very, very big lawn. And we just had reseeded the whole thing because there were huge bald patches. And as I was mowing the lawn, I would be choking on giant dust clouds. It's just, we have some raised areas that don't get enough water, things like that. So, paid more money than I could comfortably afford to reseed the lawn. And part of my job, once that was reseeded, was I had to make sure that the entire lawn remained moist for 30 days. So, first of all, moist to me seems like a pretty subjective phrase or term to use. But okay. So I tried to figure out a strategy for keeping as much as the lawn as I could conceivably do moist throughout that 30-day period. I am now halfway through that 30-day period. Actually, I'm not. I'm like 10 days through that 30-day period. And so every morning at 6, I get out. I have 2 hoses running with 2 sprinklers that have a pretty wide diameter or circumference. I don't know on math. Pretty big wide dispersion area. And I let those run for 25 minutes, and then I shift both of those sprinklers to other places. So I get the 4 most in need areas. And as I shift, I also try to inundate the areas in between that aren't going to get. So I do a lot of work, probably I would say about 45 minutes in the morning, and then again in the late afternoon. And lately I've been thinking, what if this isn't enough, or what if I'm doing it wrong? And that would stink, spending this much time for 30 days. And it's like there's so much going on, and I don't know so much. And I've looked online, and I've tried to figure it out. And I think I'm doing it okay, but what if I'm not? And I realized that this is something that bothers me a lot. And I'm always thinking about things like, what if I do all this work, but it's the wrong stuff, and so it ultimately doesn't work anyway? And that, this week, for me, has wrapped into Rune Wars, right? Of course you knew this was coming up again. I got crushed by Russ in Rune Wars. Now, we've had our streaks going back and forth, I mean, it's been a long time since my Conflict 47 streak that everybody will remember. But those wins that I had against Russ before things started to even out and go back and forth again, those were usually very close wins. That wasn't like, I was just crushing Russ. Russ crushes me in this game every time we play. And I'm trying to figure out what could it possibly be. Like, I'm used to losing. Don't get me wrong. I lose a lot. But I'm not used to losing this badly, this consistently. And I love the game. I love the concept of the game. I love the ideas. I love the rules. There's a couple things that strike me as odd sometimes, but for the most part, I think it's a great game, and I love the models. I love the aesthetic of everything, almost like a cartoon, but at the same time, really awesome detail. I love it. I love it, but I am terrible at it apparently, and I'm trying to figure out why. And the best I can come up with, because Russ just gives me a different reason every time, because I think he's trying to keep me, on my back foot. Again, Russ's theory of teaching is the burned hand teaches best, which is a totally valid educational tool. Just stinks to be on the other side of it. It's exactly how he taught me how to play racquetball. And so trying to figure it out, I feel every time I play that I've lost before I even start moving. And I don't think it's really because of my army composition, right? I don't think so anyway. But I don't know, because again, I have very little idea of what is going on, but I think I have at least a basic handle on that. A lot of what's helped me with that is there's a website, tabletopminiatures.com, and they have a great army composition program where you can see all the pictures. You can actually see all the command dials, and that's helped me a lot because I can't get a grasp on any of these Fantasy Flight games like X-Wing or Armada or any of these games where you've got all your war gear and your upgrades are on these cards, and so I can't just flip through a book as I try to think about all these things that I'm doing. So I did two things. First, I didn't really do it. I found tabletopminiatures.com, which is awesome. And I also figured out, going online and looking all over these places, that you can get these pages that people with like Magic collections and things like that use, and there are specific sizes for these Fantasy Flight game unit cards and upgrade cards. And so I think it's 12 pages. 12 pockets a page, or is it 16? No, I think it's 16. Yeah, it's 16. 4 across and 4 down. So 16 pocket pages will perfectly fit these the FFG little cards. And so I got those. I made this was before Tuesday night's debacle. I put together a whole, basically like a codex from 40K perspective, with all my unit cards and a rule book and all of my upgrade cards that I have. And I have it so that the undead were in one direction and the Dakan humans were in another direction. So I had it all in one binder. And so I think I'm okay, although Russ crushed me with he had a single upgrade card. Now, it was a really good upgrade card. His elves have an upgrade card where his leader, for 3 points, if you're following the game at all, so 3 points is not that much. For 3 points, you can't shoot at his leader at all until she attacks you in hand-to-hand combat, because she's prowling through the high grass, apparently. And when she does that, she causes an amount of wounds equal to the turn number when she attacks. So the longer she waits, the more damage she does, which is cool fluffy-wise, but 3 points seems like... he did 2 additional wounds on top of the crazy wounds she did. I believe he wiped out my skeletons down to... He killed 7 models in one attack with that card. So he only had that card, and everything else, right up to 200 points were his units. So maybe I am spending a little too much money, or a little too many points on those cards. I got to think that through. But what I think I'm doing wrong is all of the brain sweat I'm putting into the pre-game phase, where you basically, just to refresh your memory, there's a whole deck of mission cards and there's a whole deck of deployment zone cards, and you deal out 3 of each, and the first player, the player with the lowest point value, or randomized if you're both equal, gets to choose from either the deployment zones or the missions, and then the other player picks whichever one you didn't pick, right? And so I looked at the missions that we had on Tuesday, and there were 2, including the actual Elven mission, and then another one that both of those heavily favored Russ's army with his super crazy fast cavalry and his archers. So there were missions where you were going to be zipping all over the board, and I did not build an army like that. And first, the undead don't really have access to that yet, although I could, now that I have Ankar Maro, and I could take 1 unit of anybody else's stuff. But I don't have anything else painted, so I took the rune golems because they look awesome. And so I figured I had to go for the mission that would least advantage Russ. And I figured I'll work with deployment zone however I can. So I picked a mission. Now, that mission wasn't advantageous to either of us. It was a minefield mission where both of us get to put out 3 mines. And those mines can be devastating if you pass over them. And so then that allowed Russ to pick a deployment zone. And I had looked at the deployment zones, and I didn't see any that looked hugely awful, and he found the one that was hugely awful, of course, which forced me into a corner, into a tight little bundle. And then the way that Rune Wars works, and this is one of those things, like I said, there's a couple things that I don't really like. You pick the deployment zone card, then you get to pick the deployment zone on that card, then you get to put down the first piece of terrain, which basically allows you, the way Russ has figured it out, if you can get a corner, force your person into a corner, And it also tells you how many terrain pieces they're going to be. Force them into a corner with an odd number of terrain pieces on your card. You're going to be able to put them in the corner and then pen them in with the most terrain. So that's what happened to me. Then on top of that, because of the mission I chose, Russ further was able to pen me in with 3 mines. So I was basically trapped. Now, in hindsight, what I should have done is backed up out of range and just waited for him, because it was a kill or be killed mission, and that would have forced him to come through the terrain, through the minefields at me, which he probably should have done, but then we would have been battling on an even playing field. Instead, my biggest unit was just there getting peppered with arrows over a swamp, because they don't block line of sight, trapped in by mines, and then eventually when I burst out of there, I did manage to do some damage, but that was with, I had started with 3 trays wide, 3 trays deep, I think, which is a pretty big unit. And by the time I got to him, I think I had 3.5 trays left total. So I had lost a whole bunch of guys. After that, before that even happened, I lost my archers. I lost my commander, died right before that other thing. I lost the rune golems. So, I was out deployed, and I was outplayed in that early phase. And so what I have to do now is I have to hope for the best on deployment, and then hope that the missions will either not really be to my disadvantage, or that I can work with them. And the thing that I think is happening with the brain sweat is that in most games that I play, these are all random rolls, and you just deal with it, and they're designed to be pretty even. So it's random, but you're both going to have pretty even deployment zones. And it's random, but the mission's going to be pretty even either way. And the way Rune Wars is designed, that's part of the game. The game starts at that very beginning moment where you're starting to pick those cards, because that's the first thing that you're going to be doing after army composition. So what I have to do is I have to start putting more thought into that, because I think the thinking that I'm doing is not working. And so that's what I've come up with. And that's a long did you ever notice. But I did not notice what was going on with this game until now. And I'm not even sure now, to rope it right back into the beginning of this whole segment, I'm not even sure now, after all this thinking and planning and preparing, that I'm doing the right thing. But I gotta try, and I will let you know how things go the next time we meet across the battlefield. And that's it for now. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Achievement unlocked! You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@the d6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA discussions forum on DACA.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
Craig was born ready. Are you kidding me?
I was.
He dreams rapid fire questions.
He does. I think you just come
it's
out.
It's a nightmare, really.
I don't know if you guys remember, but I think I got 2 of them last time right.
Oh.
It was like my greatest achievement of all time was to get like a couple of those questions right last time.
Ran the board, Craig. Someone ran the board almost on you last time.
No, it was Doug got 2 in a row last time.
Yes, that was
wow.
Yeah. That was my fault. That won't be happening again.
All I know is I got something right, and
you did.
So excited.
It was impressive.
People actually were tweeting like Buonocore actually literally sounded so excited, and I was like, oh my god, I actually got one of these stupid questions. I love it.
You did. All right.